No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access. Plus, commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google.
Breaking overnight, the U.S. launching a major strike against Iran, dropping a 5,000-pound bunker buster as new reports point to tensions inside the Trump administration. A top intelligence official resigning, raising questions about the strategy and the path forward. We've got the very latest on that. And later, a massive fraud scheme in California exposed by social media investigator Nick Shirley. More than $100 million allegedly taken from taxpayers, the suspects living in luxury, and still no consequences. This morning, new questions about who failed to stop it. One of the investigators joins us. Stick around for that. And then, the latest from Capitol Hill. The Senate now moving forward on the Save America Act, a narrow vote to begin debate, setting up contentious fight in the days ahead. A live report from Capitol Hill and much more as this Wednesday edition of American Sunrise Early Edition starts right now, people.
Welcome to American Sunrise Early Edition. The show where faith, freedom, and the values that built this nation take center stage.
You people and others like you built this country.
Join us as we break down the stories that matter.
FAFO. If you don't know, now you know.
American Sunrise Early Edition on Real America's Voice starts now.
All right, welcome to a Wednesday edition of American Sunrise Early Edition. So glad you're joining us. There's a lot you can do right now. Take a look at the bottom of your screen right now. There's a QR code. Scan it. That's your ticket to join the Weather Nation family. Get connected, and even better, your hometown forecast could be next. So head over to Real America's Voice chats on Getter, Rumble, and YouTube. And during the 9 a.m. hour of American Sunrise, if you're selected, we'll deliver your hometown forecast live. So jump in, be a part of the fun, and join us and Weather Nation. Joining us now is Weather Nation's own Tracy Anthony. Tracy, good morning to you. Now, I would imagine if you live in the West, or anywhere on the West Coast, you better have some air conditioning because you're getting some triple digits coming out that way.
Yeah, it's going to be extreme. I was actually just talking to a neighbor yesterday who used to live in San Francisco, and she said they didn't have AC or even heat for that matter. But There's a lot of people in some of those areas that are going to be hurting. So we always say check on your neighbors, check on the elderly, especially if they don't have AC. But I want to kind of dive into that forecast because we are talking a long duration heat wave that's coming in really well before average. So widespread extreme heat warnings and heat advisories from Vegas all the way down through Tucson. This does stretch up into the Bay Area, and these heat advisories and excessive heat warnings will be in effect through the entire week. So this ridge of high pressure is just going to hold its ground. It's driving the rain from the Pacific up across areas of Washington, so we do still have an atmospheric river bringing in some moisture. Fire danger across the Front Range, a little snow for the Great Lakes, and one more morning with some cold temperatures across the southeast, and then we're going to be warming up as well. So temperatures rebounding back to more spring spring-like levels. But look at this, Phoenix, triple digits, could be the earliest they've had a triple-digit high temperature. So we're going to be breaking records, not just for Phoenix, but even areas like Denver. Forecast on Saturday to get up to 89 degrees. Denver, the highest temperature on record for the month of March is 84 degrees. So we're not just breaking these records by a degree or two. We're going to be crushing them with this heat that sticks around for several days. We'll finally get some relief as we get into early next week, so then temperatures will dial back. But with the heat and with the rain across parts of the Northwest, we do have a lot of concerns for avalanche danger. So if I know it's spring break, a lot of people go skiing, snowboarding. If you're not going to the beach, you might be going out west. Avalanche danger is going to be a real big concern, especially with the warm temperatures. That snow starts to melt. So that's definitely one thing I want people to consider over the next couple of days, Brian, because even though it's clear skies doesn't mean that there's no weather danger out there.
That's a great point. I never thought about the danger of the avalanche, especially going into these warmer months in the spring. So that's good heads up on that. And then also, I saw a fun fact. I think if Palm Springs on Friday hits 110, it will be the warmest day on record ever in the U.S. on that in the month of March. So we'll see if that plays out.
Hey, look at that. You're giving me some fun nuggets. I'll look that up to verify. But no, it's like Denver. They're going to all be breaking records.
Yeah, we're breaking records everywhere. Well, and you know what's funny? Let's make sure on Thursday, Friday we keep an eye on that. It'd be interesting to see if that does happen. But anyway, all right. Thank you so much. And of course, all of our viewers can find you in the 9 o'clock hour for one of our lucky hometown forecast selections.
Yep.
So Tracy, thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, let's turn to our top story. Breaking overnight, the U.S. hitting Iranian missile sites near the Strait of Hormuz using a 5,000-pound bunker buster. A clear escalation in this war, and at the same time, signs of real tension inside the administration. Now, top counterterrorism official Joe Kent stepping down, publicly breaking with the war. Let's bring in Colonel William Dunn, a former Cobra pilot and combat commander. Colonel Dunn, bunker busters amid this ongoing split with the administration. What's your read on all of this? And before we get started, thank you for your service, sir. I appreciate it. I know in times like this, a lot of us need to really reflect of those that served our country. So I want to start off this interview by saying thank you for your service.
Well, thanks, Brian, and thanks so much for having me. And it was my pleasure and honor to serve this country for so long. Just a great time in my life for not only myself but my family.
Wonderful. What's your read on all of this? Let's start with the 5,000-pound bunker busters. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's to me is not unusual whatsoever. We are using everything in our arsenal, every capability in our arsenal to protect and make sure our men and women that are executing this campaign downrange have everything they need. You know, we've seen that with submarines sinking ships, bunker busters, B-2s, pulling out B-52s, B-1s. Just if you're going to fight a war, I know we're not technically calling this a war, but to the men and women fighting it, I would think they would call it a war. But they need to have everything they need at their disposal 24/7 to prosecute these targets. And the president in this administration has given that to them. And that's a outstanding thing if you're the warfighter pulling a trigger on these targets.
Okay. Earlier when this war started, we didn't necessarily ask for any of our allies or any members of NATO to get involved. Now that we're kind of looking for some of our allies to help us with securing the Strait of Hormuz, very few countries have been willing to come forward, and France reluctantly thinking about it. What's your take on and do we need our allies to come to our aid to secure this strait?
Well, first of all, it'd be wonderful if they were there. As a pilot, a attack helicopter pilot, and spending a lot of time coming in and off ships, it does not bother me that they're not there. I believe we can attack all these targets with U.S. capabilities and obviously Israeli capabilities without adding additional fray into the mix. Our allies are great. They're great to be there, but it does add confusion. It adds risk. And so by them not showing up, although I think it's a tactical failure on their part and a strategic failure on their part, I think it'll allow us to prosecute some of these targets in the next coming weeks with a little more ease and a little less friction. So I don't mind that they're not there. Would I like them there? Yes. But once you bring in another country, especially if they're coming off ships and you have other ships in the area, that puts a huge threat to our aircraft. And I suspect all the pilots that are out there that they're listening that have flown combat missions in the region would agree that it can become scary returning to force if you're flying and other countries are painting you with their radars and they're not sure. We saw what happened in Kuwait. 3 of our aircraft got shot down. I think this will go a long way in protecting that by not having them there.
That's an excellent point. I'm glad you brought that up. I have not heard that perspective, but you make some excellent points. Okay, yesterday, Joe Kent stepping down, resigning, sending a letter to President Trump, pushing out on social media as well, claiming that he did from his take of this, we weren't really an imminent threat from Iran, from any type of attack, and was thought to perhaps been led into this war on behalf of Israel forcing us into this war. What's your assessment of that? And do you think that he was looking at the same intelligence briefing as President Trump? I mean, are they all looking at the same amount of information?
Well, first of all, I suspect they are. And what's important for a commander is very simple. And I've been in this situation, as most commanders have. When you are the commander, whether you're the commander of a squadron, an infantry battalion, or the country as the commander-in-chief, when you take all your advice from your advisors, eventually you make a decision. And once that decision is made, you have 2 choices. Support that decision or go on with your life and resign like this guy did. Now, I don't know him. I've never met him. I've looked at some of his record. He seems like a stand-up guy. So he's resigning for his own reasons. But that's what he should do. If he does not agree and is not going to support the president, he should resign and move on and bring someone in that will support this, because the decision has been made. Anyone backing out at this point, in my opinion, is putting our men and women at risk because the decision has been made. Now we support it. We support it fully to the end. And then we debate about it afterwards, because right now we cannot turn back the last 3 weeks. And hopefully this will be over the next 2 or 3 weeks and our men and women can come home safely. But you never know. We do not want to put our men and women at risk. So I just hope everybody stays the course. Give your comments and your opinions to the president, but when he decides, you're either on board or you're not.
There you go. I agree. All right, Colonel Dunn, thank you so much. Once again, thanks for your service, and we look forward to seeing you again. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much for having me, and I'll throw a prayer out for all our men and women that are executing this campaign.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. We will.
You're up.
All right, coming up, the countdown to the opening bell, plus this Real America's Voice live from CPAC there in Dallas, March 25th through the 28th. We're not just covering CPAC, we're bringing the energy, live comedy from Rob Schneider, plus musical guests, wall-to-wall coverage. If you're there, make sure you stop by our stage. It's going to be one of the biggest ones we've ever built, from what I understand. If not, you can watch our coverage right here on Real America's Voice. Check it out.
Get ready, America. March 25th through 28th, CPAC USA 2026 takes over the Lone Star State. And Real America's Voice brings you wall-to-wall coverage, live shows from the convention floor, exclusive interviews, powerful panels, and live music and entertainment, all from the massive Real America's Voice stage. Hear from Rav's own Steve Bannon.
The only way we don't have victory if we surrender. And we're not going to retreat. We're not going to surrender. We're not going to quit.
And Jack Posobiec live.
Freedom is a responsibility that we must uphold every single day of our lives.
Plus Dr. Gina.
We always came together because we know what we're fighting for.
Rob Schneider and Alex Stein bring the laughs with stand-up comedy. And the music lineup features Natasha Owens, Deepak, Celeste Kellogg, and more. CPAC USA 2026, only on Real America's Voice. Presented by Birch Gold Group and Patriot Mobile.
At Real America's Voice, we love Pastor Jensen Franklin, a faithful servant of the Lord who brings our audience life-changing sermons every Sunday.
God is after
a conversation with you.
And now, Jensen has a new book that will impact you too. What if your most effective prayers were not your longest ones? So many believers feel pressure to say more, thinking longer or more eloquent prayers will move the hand of God. But Scripture says otherwise. Throughout the Bible, brief, heartfelt prayers brought breakthrough and divine intervention.
And if I can inspire you to pray, I can inspire you to be like Jesus.
You will discover how even a simple cry like, "Lord, save me," can open heaven's windows.
I really believe it's going to change your life.
Filled with biblical examples and practical encouragement, this book will help you pray with confidence in every circumstance.
You are missing so much more God has for your life.
Get ready to experience the miracles that come when you pray short, bold prayers filled with power. Scan the QR code now and order your copy today on Amazon.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google.
All right, welcome back to America's Sunrise. That's a beautiful shot right there in New York City. Welcome back. I'm Brian Glenn. Good to have you with us this morning. We're tracking the White House, the markets, and the latest in the Middle East. Join the conversation on Getter, YouTube, and Rumble. Let's check out on Wall Street as we head towards the opening bell. The Dow closing up 47 points at 46,993. The NASDAQ also moving slightly higher, more than 105 points to close at 22,479. Now, Brent crude closing above $102 a barrel. U.S. crude settling near 96. And at the pump, gas prices jumping overnight. Now, the national average is around $3.79 a gallon as the New York Stock Exchange prepares to open at 9:30. And I was watching this morning a little bit of the oil stocks and some of the analysts that were talking about these. Every one of the oil companies have just been on a run lately, and he suggests that they were absolutely a sell right now. And I'm not suggesting you do that, but just from what I've heard. And you can also see that how this connects to higher oil prices is higher gas prices. And now the real concern as voters headed to the polls is a major primary in Illinois and special elections in Virginia and Pennsylvania. Early test ahead of the midterms. Do we have Doug Mastriano with us now? Okay, we do not. But when you take a look at the price of gas and the price of diesel, which directly affects just about every thing that is on the shelf right now from a consumer standpoint, that is causing the prices to go higher. Now, President Trump has said this is kind of a short-lived spike in oil. And I have brought up on this show that we could see, and some others have suggested it, that any type of oversight hearing and bring some of these oil executives in to ask them why, in a matter of a day, do we see prices of gas around the country spike as much as 50 to 60 cents overnight, when that immediate effect in the Middle East doesn't necessarily, equal to the effect at the pump. So there is a little bit of a lag time before we start to see that increase prices at the pump. So maybe that happens. I don't know. But certainly the price of goods have gone up. Now, how will that affect the voter as we go into the midterms? Now, if you look from an economy standpoint, yes, overall inflation has come way down since Joe Biden's administration. All of us know that if we saw double digits inflation across every consumer good and service, that is way down. However, now we have price of gas at $3.79, the national average. So go on the flip side of this. you take a look at if we're still in any type of military escalation. Now, the poly markets suggest that we could still be dealing with the Strait of Hormuz by about May. So some analysts say it could be shorter. Poly markets suggest by May. But there also was a higher probability that this could go to December. Now, if we're still dealing with the Strait of Hormuz and military action in the Middle East on behalf of the U.S. government that's still going on with us, that could affect the midterms in regards to do voters feel secure and safe about going into the next election with an ongoing war that would have started only for a couple of weeks, but have gone several months since then. We'll find out how that turns out. All right, let's have a word from one of our sponsors. Now, think about this for a second. In 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot prices. And at today's prices, those 33 ounces of gold could be worth about $165,000. So smart Americans diversify a portion of their savings into precious metals. And that's why you need to consider buying gold from our friends over at Birch Gold Group. Now, for thousands of years, gold has been a store of wealth. And today, it's a crucial part of any balanced strategy. So even better, Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account. So just text America to 989898 and receive your free information kit on gold. Now, there's no obligation, just useful information with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers. Let the Birch Gold Group help you diversify with gold. Now, that's a peace of mind. Text America to 989898. Again, that's America to 989898. Do it today. All right, coming up. First, it was Minnesota, now California. Nick Shirley and his team uncovered a massive fraud, over $170 million. That story coming up next as American Sunrise Early Edition continues.
America, it's time to make some noise. Scan the QR code right now and download the new song, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Or search for it on iTunes and download it today. In a world filled with chaos and uncertainty, this song is a reminder of something stronger, America's grit, faith, and fortitude. From the label that brought you The Boss, Anthem of the Free, and Somali Waltz, comes the next anthem, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Scan the QR code and download it now.
It's God, Grit, and Guns. God, Grit, and Guns. God, Grit, and Guns.
To our enemies, FAFO.
God, Grit, and Guns.
America, it's time to make some noise. Scan the QR code right now and download the new song, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Or search for it on iTunes and download it today. In a world filled with chaos and uncertainty, this song is a reminder of something stronger, America's grit, faith, and fortitude. From the label that brought you The Boss, Anthem of the Free, and Somali Waltz, comes the next anthem, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Scan the QR code and download it now.
It's God, Grit, and Guns. God, Grit, and Guns. God, Grit, and Guns.
To our enemies, FAFO.
God, Grit, and Guns.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
All right, welcome back to America's Sunrise Early Edition Live Look. San Diego, California. Now, it might be a little cool right now, but inland parts of California really starting to heat up as they got a heat wave going on. But welcome back. Glad you're with us on this very busy morning. As always, we're following developments across the country and around the world. Join us on Getter, YouTube, and Rumble. Now, our top story at this minute, a massive fraud investigation out of California, potentially even bigger than Minnesota. Nick Shirley and his team is uncovering more than $170 million in alleged fraud. Nick teaming up with activist Amy Reichert to expose what they say is a broken system. Let's take a look.
So they do have some children here. How many do they usually say they have, or what's the story with the children?
The last few visits from the state have said that they have 39 enrolled.
And right now we're seeing about 5 children?
Yes.
They are enrolling right now. It says Medina Learning Center is now enrolling, so let's see if little Joey can learn a little bit here at Medina. Do you have the paperwork to enroll a little boy by the name of Joey? Yes, we'd like to enroll little Joey into daycare.
They have as their backup facility the UMI Learning Center, and the UMI Learning Center was convicted in federal court in 2024 of having 150 ghost kids. So I want to find out what the affiliation is and why this facility is listed as the backup.
Oh, man. Joining us now is Amy Reichert. She's a founder of Restore San Diego. Amy, $100 million? This is almost hard to believe.
And a lot of it, according to President Trump, is going to terrorist organizations. So money that's meant for needy kids to feed them and for these ghost daycares is actually going to Al-Qaeda, according to President Trump.
Okay. Now, this is just one of many. I mean, how many of these daycares are all over California? I mean, this is not just a handful. You guys probably have a list of daycares.
I searched alphabetically, and what I found was staggering, that a lot of it was centered specifically right here in San Diego in the Somali community.
Okay, so when you confront them, and that was just one brief clip that we saw, how combative and defensive are they? Because I think they have an idea that you figured them out.
Every single person willingly opened the door and said, "You're Nick Shirley." And the image that you're looking at right now, the woman, she came to the door and she said, "I'm naked. I could sue you." And then she disappeared for 30 seconds. She came back, opened the door again, said, "I was naked. I could sue you, Nick Shirley." And of course, you know what I said next. I said, "Why are you naked in a daycare?"
Well, that's a great question because it's not a daycare. We all know that. Oh, okay. So you've got this information. Obviously, President Trump is aware of the fraud. Vice President J.D. Vance is aware of the fraud. They call him the fraud czar now. Where does this information go, and how can we as Americans, and Californians in particular, because you're out there, hold these people responsible? What happens to them?
I can tell you right now, we're having a heat wave in California, and the heat is on Gavin Newsom, and he is having a really bad past couple of days. I can tell you that our Assistant Attorney General, Bill Asaley, just quote tweeted Nick Shirley and said, arrests are coming. So we can't wait.
Yeah. Now, how do you go about finding the, and I would imagine there are some daycares that are legitimately following the law. They are, they're legit. How do you separate the ones that are doing it right and the ones that are ripping people off? What's your grounds for that?
I'm a state licensed private investigator in California. I've had my license since 1999. So I did go about this in an investigative style by searching alphabetically. And I never, ever focused on one ethnic, racial, or religious group. And I came up with a list of really the dirty dozen. And I showed them to Nick Shirley. And these were ones that had the most visits from the state of California, and it had the most health and safety code violations. Things like missing enrollment records, not having parental emergency contact information. So again, I'm just an investigator. I'm not a judge. I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not a jury. So all I can really do is say, look, here's some fraud indicators, Attorney General. Will you please take a look?
Yeah. Do you ever feel threatened? I've seen some of these videos, and the one the other day, this guy was claiming, he starts filming you guys. Do you ever feel threatened that they might turn violent towards you?
You know, the attacks and the threats against Nick Shirley, who's just 23 years old, a citizen journalist, a patriot who's just trying to get the truth out there. I can tell you that I saw with my own eyes on social media that someone said that he should be Charlie Kirk, and that would make his mom Erica.
Yeah, I know some of the hate that we see online against anyone trying to expose fraud gets that reaction. Okay, so how many more do you think we could find? I mean, $170 million in fraud seems like a lot, but do you anticipate more? I mean, you go up to San Francisco. I mean, some of these other, Los Angeles. I mean, I would imagine. How much more of this is going on?
California is a big state, and it's certainly a lot bigger than Minnesota. And I can tell you that Nick Shirley is returning to California, so there's more to come.
All right, Amy. As always, how can people follow you on social media for all the investigative stuff that you're doing?
I'm on Instagram and X, and my handle is Amy for San Diego.
There you go. Amy for San Diego. I like that. All right. Next time I'm on the West Coast, I'll come look you up. And by the way, I hope you have air conditioning, because that heat wave that you have right now is going to get hot. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. It's a busy morning. You're going to need a cup of something. How about some Artillery Tea Company? That's the America Only First veteran-owned tea brand. Their mission is simple: maximize flavor with whole leaf, chemical-free tea bags. No junk, just real tea. And now here's a tactical advantage: each bag brews twice. Go over to artillerytco.com, promo code RAV for your 10% off your first order. That's artillerytco.com. Premium tea, mission driven, brewed for the brave. Maybe Nick Shirley drinks Artillery tea and he goes out there. He's so brave. Maybe he does. Coming up, the latest headlines from our Denver newsroom, plus a live report from Capitol Hill. All that and a whole lot more on this Wednesday edition of America Sunrise.
No fear in my chest. It's doing what's right when it costs you rest. I don't make threats. I don't bluff. It's God gritting gun.
America, it's time to make some noise. Scan the QR code right now and download the new song God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers, or search for it on iTunes and download it today. In a world filled with chaos and uncertainty, this song is a reminder of something stronger, America's grit, faith, and fortitude. From the label that brought you The Boss, Anthem of the Free, and Somali Waltz, comes the next anthem, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Scan the QR code and download it now.
It's God, grit, and guns. God, grit, and guns. God, grit, and guns.
To our enemies, FAFO.
God, grit, and guns.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead, scan the QR code now. Welcome to American Sunrise Early Edition. The show where faith, freedom, and the values that built this nation take center stage.
All right, welcome back to American Sunrise. By the way, peeling back the curtain real quickly, I always love the people back in the control room, back in West Palm, talking in my ear. I love them every morning. All right, good morning, everybody. Brian Glenn, glad you're with us on this very busy morning. Make sure you join us on Getter, YouTube, and Rumble. Let's head over to the Denver newsroom now with the latest headlines with Terrance Bates. Terrance, what's leading today?
Brian.
Never a shortage.
Oh, Brian, there's so much to talk about. Let's start on the Capitol, where the U.S. Senate digging in for a marathon debate over the Save America Act. The voter integrity bill would require prospective voters to show proof of citizenship in order to register to vote. The measure also includes a provision for voters to show identification in order to actually cast a ballot. President Trump calls getting the bill passed his top legislative priority. Senate Majority Leader John Thune bringing the bill to the floor despite the expectation that it's going to fail.
You're going to hear me use the adjective common sense a lot in this debate, Mr. President, because if there's any word that is suitable to describe the measures we're considering, it's that. Mr. President, if there's anything essential to the integrity of elections, it's ensuring that those who are registered to vote are eligible to vote, and that those who show up to vote at polling places are those who they say they are.
And Brian, President Trump has said that he won't sign any new bills until the act is passed. Senate Majority Leader Thune threatening to keep the measure on the floor through the weekend and potentially into next week in order to highlight Democratic opposition to the voting reforms. And again, he said these are common sense issues that are being considered, but Democrats have been holding out. And let's just be honest, there are a couple of Republicans who are also holdouts for this and have rejected or pushed back against this, which absolutely is not helping his case.
No, but it's also the same logic that Republicans have complained about Obamacare for 15 years now and have done absolutely nothing in return in regards to providing an alternative healthcare plan. So if this is common sense approach, Terrance, then let's do the common sense thing and pass it. But I don't think common sense flows through D.C.
Common sense doesn't always rule the day, for sure. Speaking of the White House, it appears to be ready to negotiate with Democrats over immigration enforcement changes in exchange for funding the Department of Homeland Security. The agency has been shuttered for more than 30 days now. On Tuesday, the White House sent Senate Republicans a letter outlining adjustments the administration is willing to make in order to address some of the concerns raised by Democrats. However, the letter reportedly ignored several Democratic Democrat priorities, including blocking immigration officers from wearing masks and requiring ICE agents to obtain warrants from judges in order to enter homes and businesses to make arrests. In the letter, Border Czar Tom Homan says the administration is open to enforcing, quote, the use of visible officer identification. Homan also says that the White House would consider limiting civil immigration enforcement activities at sensitive locations like hospitals and schools. So it goes to show that the White House and the administration in general are looking to find ways to get the Department of Homeland Security funded. But again, the Democrats are really digging in here and not, or at least don't appear to be ready to budge on some minor things to make sure that DHS is funded and, more importantly, that our nation is secured.
Yeah, and we saw some videos yesterday. I think John Cornyn and one of the reps in Texas met at the airport, and they had a little bit of exchange on the curb. We've seen some TSA protests, or I should say, kind of a impromptu press conferences, if you will. Sorry. So the nation really is getting on edge of all this. And of course, we mentioned about spring break travelers right now. A lot of people between the weather and the TSA lines, they're missing flights. And we're dropping the ball on safety and our duty as Americans to provide a safe country. So this is just a failure all across the board.
The safety issue is the biggest concern for me, Brian. I think you hit the nail on the head. What's it going to take for a couple of planes to collide or for there to be some sort of major aviation accident and then they're going to want to act? No, we want to prevent that, and acting now is the way to do that. Let's hope something comes of all of this. Brian, finally, the FBI and Georgia Bureau of Investigation on the case this morning after a man walked into a VA clinic and shot an employee. The victim was airlifted to the hospital. Police quickly responded to the crime scene, though, and shot and killed the shooter. We're expecting details about the suspect to be released as soon as today. So far, investigators aren't saying what motivated the attack or if the suspect is even a veteran. All of this happened in Jasper, Georgia. That's about 60 miles outside of Atlanta. The clinic will be closed for the rest of the week, and it offers primary care services along with laboratory and mental health care. Just a shocking sort of story. Fortunately, not many victims involved here, but that a guy would walk into a VA clinic and start shooting. It just raises concerns, and it's a story that we'll, of course, continue to follow. Also, Brian, following the whole story involving Joe Kent, the fact that he resigned and basically is blaming the Trump administration for starting the war in Iran, saying that it was largely influenced by Israel. That's Joe Kent's contention. Of course, the president came out and said that's not the case, and also called Joe Kent weak yesterday in all of this. So that's another story we're going to be watching today. A lot going on.
Yeah, there is. All right, Terrance, as always, we can get more Terrance. If you want more Terrance, stick around about a half hour. You'll have him. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, now to Capitol Hill, the Senate moving forward on the SAVE Act. Let's bring in our national political reporter, Neil McCabe, who's live on Capitol Hill right now. Neil, very interesting scenario setting up. A lot of people might have been a little shocked when they read the headlines on social media that the SAVE Act passed. Kinda. Lay out the blueprints on where we're at right now with the Save America Act.
So what happened yesterday, Brian, is that the Senate approved the motion to advance to the bill, to take up the bill. That vote was 51-48. And of course, we all know there are 45 Democrats and 2 independents who caucus with Democrats. So that extra vote was Republican from Alaska, Lisa Murkowski, who voted against moving forward with the bill. Tom Tillis didn't show up. So there you have 2 rebels already, but 51 carries the day. And now the Senate is taking the vote. Now, senators, both Republicans and Democrats, were on the floor yesterday afternoon and evening. They shut down the floor around 7:20 last night. But that wasn't sort of part of the filibuster. That was just, there are times set up where senators can just sort of speak on events, and they decided to speak on the SAVE Act mostly. today at 10 o'clock, the Senate convenes, and we have to wait to see how it happens. You could have the Democrats seize the floor and not give it back, and that would be the classic filibuster. Once the Democrats stop speaking, then they have to give up the floor, and then the Republicans can start having votes. The first votes are not going to be to close debate and go to the actual Save America Act, because there's a number of amendments that have been called for by President Donald J. Trump. And so I would expect Senate Republicans, John Thune, the leader, to move forward with those amendments. And we'll see. The Democrats could filibuster the amendments, or they could let them go. We really don't know what the Democrats are going to do, Brian.
Great laying out the framework on that. A great job on that. Okay, you had a couple questions to Thune yesterday. Walk us through that.
Right. So every Tuesday, Thune has a press gaggle just off the Senate floor. I asked him two questions. The first question was, why is the filibuster more important than blocking illegals from voting? And he said that the filibuster is a part of the institution. The framers of the Constitution wanted to set up the Senate as a deliberative body. And it was telling that he said, and when the Democrats take over the Senate, we'll be able to use the filibuster against them to block their agenda. I'm not sure if that's true. And then my follow-up was, if the issues in the Save America Act are existential threats to our democracy, which is what Thune and the Republicans are saying, well, then why aren't we why are we treating this so casually? He said he didn't think that the Senate was treating it casually. Senate Republicans were treating it casually. But, in his language and phraseology, 2 or 3 days ago, he was a lot more hardcore. That press gaggle is right after the Senate luncheon, when the both Senate Republicans and Democrats have lunch together on Tuesdays, and then afterwards their leaders speak. Something happened in that room. I haven't found out yet. I've talked to people who are usually in the room. They weren't in the room. So we'll find out what happened. But when Thune came out of that luncheon, he started talking about having an important conversation with Democrats, putting Democrats on the record. You saw him clip earlier in the show where he's talking about common sense solutions. Well, that's a common sense solution is not dealing with an existential threat to your Constitution. So we'll see what they do.
I've always thought, Neil, that if Republicans went on the offense on this and got rid of the filibuster, codified all these executive orders and all these policies into law, and strengthened the Republican Party, strengthened our election process, we wouldn't have to worry about Democrats getting back in power and weaponizing it against us, because voters wouldn't approve of Democrats. They would be happy with what's going on with the life with Republican policies. So I don't you brought it up. I don't think there's any better issue to get rid of the filibuster on this. Securing our elections. That is the most important thing we have.
Well, the only way I can respond to you, Brian, is to say that the Republican and Democratic labels are useless to me. I see it as there are people who are for Washington and against Washington. Republicans are sent to Washington, D.C. to control and rein in the federal government. But what happens is, their wife becomes a lobbyist, their son gets a job at some agency or think tank, and they marry with the natives. And then it turns out they're just as pro-Washington and having Washington in control as the Democrats. And so we're stuck.
Yeah. Neil, you nailed it. And when you see someone that's elected from, let's just say Georgia, okay, and they move their entire family to D.C., you go, wait a minute, why would you do that? You should spend more time in your district talking to your constituents than you do the lobbyists in D.C. And so, to your point, that's what they do. They get up there, they marry the natives, they get in with lobbyists and
They're more worried, Brian. They're more worried about getting their kids into Georgetown Prep than they are in advancing the agenda they campaigned for.
Neil, you are spot on today. Neil, as always, I appreciate you coming on. How can people follow you on social media? I know there's a lot developing today. You'll be right there in the action.
You can find me on all the socials, Brian, at Reporter McCabe.
Yeah, at Reporter McCabe. Thanks, Neil. I appreciate it. All right, coming up, we'll check with David Brody right here on American Sunrise, get you what they're working on, all that straight ahead when we come back.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
America, it's time to make some noise. Scan the QR code right now and download the new song, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Or search for it on iTunes and download it today. In a world filled with chaos and uncertainty, this song is a reminder of something stronger, America's grit, faith, and fortitude. From the label that brought you The Boss, Anthem of the Free, and Somali Waltz, comes the next anthem, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Scan the QR code and download it now.
It's God, grit, and guns. God, grit, and guns. God, grit, and guns.
To our enemies, FAFO.
God, grit, and guns.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead, scan the QR code now. America, it's time to make some noise. Scan the QR code right now and download the new song, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Or search for it on iTunes and download it today. In a world filled with chaos and uncertainty, this song is a reminder of something stronger, America's grit, faith, and fortitude. From the label that brought you The Boss, Anthem of the Free, and Somali Waltz, comes the next anthem, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Scan the QR code and download it now.
It's God, grit, and guns. God, grit, and guns. God, grit, and guns.
To our enemies, FAFO.
God, grit, and guns.
All right, welcome back to American Sunrise Early Edition. Excuse me, I'm just trying to scan that code there. There you go. Make sure you do that. That's kind of a cool promotion we have here at Real America's Voice. All right, I want to bring in America's Sunrise host David Brody to the conversation for the final few minutes of the show this morning. God, Grit, and Country. Gotta love it.
Yeah, how about some grits too? But I'm always thinking about food. Food.
So am I. Real quickly, a big story obviously happening in the admin. Joe Kent out, resigns, sends a letter to President Trump, says he doesn't really agree with them. President Trump said, he seems like a nice guy, but kind of weak on security. They part ways. The mission, still continues, though.
Yeah, listen, Brian, instead of, and we'll focus a lot on Joe Kent, what he had to say, and he talked about the Israel lobby and all that, but let's put all that aside for a second. He said one thing, obviously. He said there was no imminent threat. Now, we've heard this before. Now, Caroline Leavitt has come out and said, President Trump, of course, has said there was an imminent threat. And Caroline Leavitt has said, as a matter of fact, she came out yesterday on X and said there is compelling evidence that there was an imminent threat. Okay, what is the compelling evidence? Look, as you know, Brian, I'm all for the war, right? I mean, I'm for it. And I think they should have been attacked. No doubt. It's been 47 years in the making. But if you're going to say there's compelling evidence of an imminent threat, rather than it being classified briefings, the public needs to have a little bit more information. And I think we'll get that today. Hopefully, we'll get a little bit more of that today at 10 a.m. with some of that Senate Intelligence Committee hearings with Tulsi Gabbard and others, because we've got to kind of know a little bit more about the imminent threat. And I think that's the key. And I don't think the administration has given a complete answer on that. Basically, they're saying, trust us. We've got the compelling evidence. The president, just trust the president. And but then you get into classified briefings, and the Republicans and Democrats come out of that saying two different things: that there is an imminent threat, there's not an imminent threat. And even Speaker Mike Johnson just said in the last 24 hours that if we didn't act, if the America didn't act, there would be scores of Americans dead. Okay, if you're going to say that, what's the exact imminent threat you're talking about?
Yeah, I think a lot of people agree with you right now, David. Appreciate it. That's at 9:30 today, right? Is that 9:30?
10 a.m. 10 a.m. Yep.
10 a.m. Okay. All right, you get more David Brody in a couple minutes. Thank you so much, David. Appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, you got more of this show tomorrow, 7 a.m. Don't forget to follow us across the social media, Brian Glenn TV. Until next time, goodbye. God bless, and have a great day.
American Sunrise is a great way to start your morning. Join us Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We've got the news of the day and some compelling interviews that you don't want to miss. Here's what you missed from yesterday. So look, guys, life expectancy, if you're a leader in Iran, strongly diminished lately. I wouldn't want to be a leader in that country. Wouldn't necessarily at this point want to even live in that country or visit it. A couple of high-ranking Iranian leaders killed in Israeli airstrikes. Check out this headline from the Jerusalem Post, which reads, IDF kills Ali Larijani. He's the biggest targeted killing since former Supreme Leader Khamenei.
This is Iran's top security chief. He didn't do a good job securing himself. And by the way, he thinks he's going to wake up in some sort of heaven this morning with virgins around him. Instead, it's going to be Satan, and it's going to be a lower level. And to be clear, everybody talks about war, right? Oh, we don't want to have war. Hold on. God talks about war in the Bible and actually says that sometimes war is necessary, and sometimes you do have to eradicate evil. And that guy is evil.
President Trump signed an executive order creating an anti-fraud task force that will be led by Vice President J.D. Vance. The order calls for members to come up with a plan in 90 days and then implement the anti-fraud measures. Congressman, just how much fraud do you think will actually be uncovered?
You know, I think that you'll see fraud probably in excess of well over $100 billion. I hope that in addition to uncovering the fraud and stopping the fraud, that we also see the Department of Justice prosecute those people who are committing the fraud.
Congressman, let me turn to the war in Iran and specifically the money aspect of it. There are grumblings on Capitol Hill that it's going to be a supplemental, that this you're going to have to spend more now. Congress is going to have to approve more money for this war. What are you hearing, to use an old-time word, what's the scuttlebutt, if you will, on Capitol Hill about this?
Very likely that this will be part of a reconciliation package that Congress tries to get across the finish line sometime between now and this summer.
The Hill is reporting that Hakeem Jeffries is looking to force a vote on DHS funding without ICE and CBP. The discharge petition expected to come sometime later this week.
I think Leader Jeffries is getting desperate. I think he's seeing the tide of public opinion turn on Democrats. Americans are clamoring for the reopening of DHS, and so I think this is a way for Leader Jeffries to deflect on the damage that his party is causing the American people. And look, I do think that we are less safe with DHS closed. We are doing so in a time in which we see the conflict in Iran. It's time to reopen DHS and reopen all of DHS.
America, it's time to make some noise. Scan the QR code right now and download the new song, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Or search for it on iTunes and download it today. In a world filled with chaos and uncertainty, this song is a reminder of something stronger, America's grit, faith, and fortitude. From the label that brought you The Boss, Anthem of the Free, and Somali Waltz, comes the next anthem, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Scan the QR code and download it now.
It's God, grit, and guns. God, grit, and guns. God, grit, and guns.
To our enemies, FAFO.
God, grit, and guns.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Ahead on American Sunrise, a top Trump administration official resigns and criticizes the president's decision-making on the war on Iran, and all of this on his way out the door. Hear President Trump's clapback ahead. Plus, Iran's top security chief Ali Larijani is dead following an Israeli airstrike. In response, Tehran launched missiles on Israel. But how far will Iran go in responding to this deadly escalation? And later, President Trump puts America first by delaying his upcoming trip to China and instead focusing on U.S. interests in the war in Iran. Ahead, how the fight to protect global oil and U.S. national interests remains front and center for the commander-in-chief. Those stories and so much more right now on American Sunrise.
Good morning, America.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
Whether it's culture,
we have breaking news to share with you.
Politics.
President Trump is joining us live now from Florida.
We've got you covered.
This is what it looks like to be a patriot.
We have to protect the American family.
The American dream is still alive.
I'm David Brody.
I'm Terrance.
And I'm Dr. Gina. Good morning, everybody. I am Dr. Gina. We are live with you from the Palm Beaches. Let's bring in David Brody. He's in Washington, D.C. Terrance Bates in our Denver newsroom. Good morning, gentlemen.
Happy Hump Day.
Dr. Gina, David, good morning. Happy Hump Day. There you go. Hey, look, guys, let's just jump right into it because there are lots of headlines about Pam Bondi. The Attorney General, of course, set to testify about the Epstein files before Congress. Here's one of the many headlines you'll see today. It's from Fox News, and it reads, House Oversight subpoenas AG Bondi in probe of Epstein case mismanagement. Bondi is set to appear April 14th. She and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche are going to provide private briefings today. The House Oversight Committee and its chairman, James Comer, looking into possible, quote, mismanagement, as you saw in that headline, of the federal investigation into Epstein, into Ghislaine Maxwell, and more. Dr. Gina, I know you've been talking about this for quite some time. Do you think anything significant is going to come out of this? And is the testimony itself enough? You have said that you want arrests, you want accountability.
Well, when I was saying that I thought arrests would be good, I certainly wasn't referencing Pam Bondi.
However, of course, yeah.
Yeah. However, you just said that all in one sentence, so I wanted to clarify. However, it has been interesting to see. I do want to know what happened the day that our journalists went there thinking that they were getting this whole binder on Epstein, and then they had a binder that was basically redacted. I also really want to know another answer. This is really important to me because I've looked through these Epstein files. I've read probably tens of thousands of them at this point, like a lot of Americans, just trying to digest them, which is a drop in the bucket, right? I want to know why some we still don't have. I want to know where the videos are. And I want to know why anyone is redacted in the to and from section with Epstein when he writes these emails, because there's no way those are victims. They're not victims. These emails are about victims. Why are those redacted? I want to know what those names are. So, what I wouldn't give to be on this committee and get to ask Pam these questions, David.
Yeah, and look, she's going to say confidentiality, but that's going to be bogus. She's not going to be able to get away with that. We can't, because of what you just said. So you wonder how this is going to go, and it makes me think, quite frankly, and I hate to say it, and I'm going to go political here for a second, it makes me think of Kristi Noem. We know that Kristi Noem's hearing a couple weeks ago didn't go well, and then, Trump wasn't happy, and that was the end of Kristi Noem at DHS. You wonder if this goes sideways on Pam Bondi, if that becomes an issue for her. By the way, speaking of sideways, it could definitely go sideways today at 10 a.m. with Tulsi Gabbard, who's testifying at the Senate Intelligence Committee hearing. We know, let's listen, we know that she is not for this war in Iran. Right. She'll never say that publicly yet. As a matter of fact, she hasn't said it. She's been kind of generic in what she posted in the last 24 hours. But she's going to be asked some tough questions today. And if she gives some answers that the president doesn't like, that's what I'm looking for today. Will it go sideways, and will she become the next Kristi Noem? That, I think, is a story politically worth watching today, guys.
But Pam Bondi, the president has been complimenting at every opportunity he's given. So I just have a feeling there's some reason there that he doesn't think there's any there, at least in terms of what he's looking for, what offends him. And then as far as Tulsi Gabbard, all I will say is it's not very often my husband and I actually have a heated political conversation before 6 a.m. But this morning I called him on his way to his Bible study. And I'm like, let's talk about this. I want to talk through this before I talk about it on the show. I'm like, who did you get that information from? And he told me who. And I'm like, I would never listen to that person. Why are you listening to that person? That's how that went. But I love him. But we disagree a lot. Very heated disagreements on politics because we disagreed on Trump. He was all in for Rubio, and I was all in for back in 2015. So not the first time. We should get to today's Bible verse. Yeah, but it's okay. It's okay to disagree and have these conversations because that's how you check yourself. If everybody you're around agrees with you, you're in an echo chamber. Get out. All right.
Even at 6 a.m.
Even at 6 a.m. All right. Today's Bible verse goes like this. Romans 9, verses 6 through 8. For they are not all Israel who are Israel. That is, those who are the children of the flesh. These are not the children of God, but the children of the promise are counted as the seed. Trying to bring some of these verses to your attention that are in discussion out there in social media and your take on them. We'd love to hear from you in our chat. A major development inside the Trump administration, a senior intelligence official, Joe Kent, has resigned over the Iran conflict. Kent says he cannot in good conscience support the war, arguing that Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States. He also raised concerns about pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby, a claim the White House denies. Kent is the first senior official to step down over the war. And here's how President Trump responded. Take a listen.
guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it.
Now, notably, also, Director of National Intelligence said President Trump has the responsibility to determine what countries are threats to the United States. Gabbard posted on X, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence is responsible for helping coordinate and integrate all intelligence to provide the president and commander-in-chief with the best information available to inform his decisions. Now, after carefully reviewing all of the information before him, she said, President Trump concluded that the terrorist Islamist regime of Iran posed an imminent threat, and he took action based on that conclusion. David Brody says that's a generic, I think he said generic response. But let's bring in national political reporter Neil McCabe. Neil, it's a day that ends in Y, and we have some very interesting drama taking place on the national level, with all of us trying to kind of figure out what's really going on behind the scenes, because it's never really the story that we're getting in the newspaper, right? Newspaper. I really just used that word. But it's remember newspapers? But it really is. There's a lot going on behind the scenes here. A lot of very passionate feelings within MAGA. That's what makes this so interesting.
Yeah, first of all, I still have a crooked shoulder from delivering newspapers. I don't know if anybody remembers Paper Boys, but yes. I was one. Joe Kent. Whenever I met Joe Kent, he seemed like a great guy. I mean, and I never really, he was running for Congress in Washington State, and I believe he ran twice in very spirited campaigns. Both times he was endorsed by Trump and conservatives. And his resignation, though, does come as a surprise, because his job was counterintelligence and counterterrorism, not necessarily part of war planning or war execution. He worked for Tulsi Gabbard in the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, so it wasn't like he was at the Department of War who was really involved in this. And so I have to believe there was something else going on. I know that he's speaking at the Catholics for Catholics Gala at the Old Trump, now the Waldorf Astoria, and that's going to be the 19th, so I guess that's tomorrow night. And so who knows? Who knows if maybe this was in the works to maybe sell those tickets. Certainly it's embarrassing as his boss goes to Capitol Hill to testify today at the Senate Intel Committee, and we'll see how it plays out. But I think over time we'll learn that maybe there was some other personal or other things going on, because it just seemed odd. And obviously as a political appointee, I just left DOJ in December as a political, and as a political, you have an obligation to the administration. If you don't agree with what the administration is doing, obviously you can resign, but you're not supposed to put it on the front page.
Yeah, exactly. And Neil, my political spidey sense, after about 30 years in this business, 30 plus years, suggests the timing was intentional here. You got Gabbard, Ratcliffe, Patel on the Hill today in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and this drops yesterday. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. Hey, let me ask you about the Save America Act. They Republicans, Democrats, they're going to debate this today. Thune's finally going to move it to the floor, but kabuki theater time. So what? I mean, this is what Trump put up on Truth Social. He said only sick, demented, or deranged people in the House or Senate could vote against the Save America Act. And then he went on to talk about how he's basically going to not support anybody that votes against the Save America Act. But here's the deal, Neil. The truth of the matter is, to me, and you tell me if you've got a different take on this, this is all theater. I mean, and theater with a purpose here, because Thune and the Republicans are basically saying, go ahead, Democrats, knock yourself out and defend voting against this. And let's see if constituents, voters across the country start picking up their phone. Now I feel like Gina with the newspaper. Pick up their phone and get on their transistor radio. I don't know, something along those lines. And actually, move some of these Democrats, or more importantly, Republicans, to get on board with the Save America Act. What's your take?
Yeah, a lot of this is performative. Yesterday, John Thune gave a gaggle just off the Senate floor. It's every Tuesday, he and Schumer speak to reporters at the Ohio Clock. And I asked Thune why is it that protecting the filibuster is more important than blocking illegals from voting? And my follow-up was, if all these things that are addressed in the Save America Act are addressing existential threats to our democracy and Constitution, then why are you treating it so casually? You would think that you would stop at nothing to have a secure election, but the filibuster is so important that they're just, Ken Paxton in Texas, he said, I will drop out of the race against Cornyn if you get rid of the filibuster and pass the Save America Act. And Thune's like, hey, I love Cornyn, but the filibuster is more important. And one of the things he said to me was, when the Democrats take over, we'll be able to use the filibuster against them. Really? That's your plan? It's all very strange, David.
Neil McCabe, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks, Neil.
All right, everybody. Coming up, we're going to check out the hottest headlines from the RAV newsroom with Terrance Bates. And Israel says it just took out a top Iranian power player. The regime is facing new pressure now. Leadership is under fire, and the world, well, we sure are watching to see what comes next. Is this a turning point? We have the facts. They're next for you here on American Sunrise.
It's God written
America, it's time to make some noise. Scan the QR code right now and download the new song, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Or search for it on iTunes and download it today. In a world filled with chaos and uncertainty, this song is a reminder of something stronger, America's grit, faith, and fortitude. From the label that brought you The Boss, Anthem of the Free, and Somali Waltz, comes the next anthem, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Scan the QR code and download it now.
It's God written
To our enemies, F-A-F-O.
God written guns.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead, scan the QR code now. This news break is brought to you by AMAC, Association of Mature American Citizens.
Washington, D.C., huge day on Capitol Hill. Tulsi Gabbard testifying, the Save America Act on the Senate floor. So much more going on. Welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. I'm David Brody. We've got a lot of headlines to get to. Let's do it with T. Bates in the Real America's Voice newsroom, sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can right the course of America.
David just mentioned it, the U.S. Senate digging in for a marathon debate over the Save America Act. The voter integrity bill would require prospective voters to show proof of citizenship in order to register to vote. The measure also includes a provision for voters to show identification in order to actually cast ballots. President Trump calls getting this bill passed his top legislative priority. Senate Majority Leader John Thune bringing the bill to the floor despite the expectation that it will fail.
You're going to hear me use the adjective common sense a lot in this debate, Mr. President, because if there's any word that is suitable to describe the measures we're considering, it's that. Mr. President, if there's anything essential to the integrity of elections, it's ensuring that those who are registered to vote are eligible to vote, and that those who show up to vote at polling places are those who they say they are.
Senator Thune, by the way, not changing the filibuster rules in order to get this measure over the finish line. President Trump has said that he won't sign any new bills until the act is passed. Senate Majority Leader Thune threatening to keep the measure on the floor, though, through the weekend and into next week in order to highlight Democratic opposition to the voting reforms. The White House appears ready to negotiate with Democrats over immigration enforcement changes, all of this in exchange for funding the Department of Homeland Security. The agency has been shuttered for more than 30 days now. Tuesday, the White House sent Senate Republicans a letter outlining adjustments in the administration's handling and the adjustments the administration is willing to make in order to address Democrats' concerns. However, the letter reportedly ignored several Democrat priorities, including blocking immigration officers from wearing masks and requiring ICE agents to obtain warrants from judges in order to enter homes and businesses. In that letter, Border Czar Tom Homan says the administration is open to enforcing, quote, the use of visible officer identification. Homan also says the White House would consider limiting civil immigration enforcement activities at sensitive locations like hospitals and schools. The FBI and Georgia Bureau of Investigation are on the case this morning after a man walked into a VA clinic and shot an employee. The victim was airlifted to the hospital. Police quickly responded to the crime scene, as you can see here, and ultimately shot and killed the shooter. We're expecting details about the suspect to be released as soon as today. So far, investigators aren't saying what motivated the attack or if the suspect is even a veteran. All of this happened in Jasper, Georgia, which is about 60 miles outside of Atlanta. The clinic will be closed for the rest of the week. It offers primary care services along with laboratory and mental health care services. That's a quick check of your headlines. I'll get you more headlines here in a little bit, but now let's get a quick check of your forecast. Weather Nation meteorologist Tracy Anthony joining us with more on what you can expect today. So, Tracy, the heat is really the big story, particularly out west.
Yeah, you know, this is going to be a long duration, early heat wave. And Terrance, I was talking to one of my neighbors who used to live in San Francisco, and she said they don't have AC out there. A lot of people don't. So you don't realize that this heat can be very dangerous to elderly and your neighbors. So if you know people out there, check on them, because this is going to be a big deal, and even cooling centers being set up to help combat the extreme temperatures. So we have widespread extreme heat warnings from Tucson all the way up through Vegas. This does include LA, and heat advisories stretching up into the Bay Area. These advisories are going to be in place throughout the week. So look at LA. You are breaking daytime heat records through at least Sunday. So the hard part with this too is if the overnight temperatures can't get cool enough overnight to give some relief, this is just going to be ongoing for several days. So fire danger across the Central Plains, a little chilly for the southeast here this morning, but really the whole southern half of the nation is going to be warming up and feeling record warmth, Terrance.
Thank you so much, Tracy. We'll check in with you next hour and get our hometown forecast. By the way, folks, a quick reminder, log on to our various social media platforms, Getter, Rumble, YouTube. Let us know where you are, and Tracy might hook you up with one of those hometown forecasts. Thanks, Trace.
Yep.
All right. Up next, President Trump turns up the pressure. The Iran conflict is escalating. China could be under pressure, and a possible Trump-Xi summit, has been delayed. Oil prices are surging. Global markets are on edge. Whew, there's a lot to take in. The big question, though, is this diplomacy or the start of something bigger? We've got expert analysis. First, though, a quick look at this day in history. It was on this date in 1969 that the United States launched its first bombing raid on Cambodia during the Vietnam War. B-52 bombers diverted from South Vietnam from a South Vietnam strike, and they struck suspected communist base camps in a neutral country. The secret mission approved by President Richard Nixon marked the start of Operation Menu, which was a hidden air campaign. Over the next year, thousands of sorties dropped massive amounts of bombs while the American public remained largely unaware.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
Here we go, all of us.
Wow, that's good.
I'm fueled up now.
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
Dublin, Ireland, the day after St. Patrick's Day. Why is that shot not sideways? Because that's how I'm sure a lot of folks feel there in Dublin, Ireland, the day after. Welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. All right. President Trump says he's disappointed in NATO allies for not helping more in the war efforts there in Iran. Have a look.
And all of the NATO allies agreed with us, but they don't want to, despite the fact that we help them so much. We have thousands of soldiers in different countries all over the world, and they don't want to help us, which is amazing. I mean, amazing. And I didn't do a full court press because I think if I did, they probably would be. But we don't need help. That war has been long prosecuted as far as I'm concerned, almost from day one. We knocked out many of these things. We knocked out the Navy essentially in a couple of days. But I was surprised to see that NATO, while they agree that it was a very important thing to do, they agree fully. Nobody said, oh, you shouldn't do it.
Okay, let's bring in former Navy SEAL and former FBI Special Agent Jonathan Gilliam. He's a patriot, by the way. Jonathan, thanks for being here. So, look, here's the deal. I mean, NATO is really a defensive alliance. I mean, they don't typically get involved at all on Middle East affairs or what they believe are preemptive strikes. So do we really expect NATO to step up? I mean, it's a bit rhetorical in nature in terms of a question. I mean, they don't want this war.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I think when we look at who NATO is made up of, those are all people who probably will have a very hard time if the Straits of Hormuz is not open. But also, these are individuals who belong to countries that are all, at one point or another, have been targets of the Iranian regime. And see, I think that's really what this boils down to, is this, for once. And I'm somebody who is, I wouldn't say I'm pro-war, but I am pro-elimination of enemies if we go to war. But don't go to war unless it's a real thing. I don't think it's a political thing that we should play around with. This, I just don't believe that this is a game that we're playing. I think this is real. And I think anybody that takes a look at history since 1979, the nation that's killed more Americans and really people in general than any other country since then has been Iran, through their proxy wars, through their terrorist attacks, and absolutely 100% are the ones responsible for the majority of fear in this world when it comes to Islamic terrorism. So I mean, the only bad thing is this should have been done years ago, but this can's been kicked down the road by every president, just like North Korea. And you see how North Korea got bombs. Well, nuclear bombs. I don't think that this would have been something that Iran wouldn't have used if they had it. So I think what it comes down to when President Trump is angry with these nations or upset with them, disappointed, is because just like NATO, when we pay into that, we end up typically fighting everything, and they fight a little if something happens. And in this case, it's no different. They're just not involved. They're nowhere there to support their ally. And that's what we always end up doing.
What we're seeing in Iran is a power/leadership vacuum, which unfortunately could give rise to an even more extreme and demented leadership group, which brings us to this Hill headline, which writes, Iran confirms Ali Larijani's death, quote, martyred. Okay. The leader, of course, was killed in Israeli strikes. Are you concerned at all, about the leadership vacuum there in Iran and who is leading the country, who ultimately could, and the prospect of the Iranians really taking control of their own country again? Just regular, average, everyday Americans who aren't these extremists, these political zealots.
Well, what's funny is I'm not sure, especially after Joe Kent's little temper tantrum and the way he stormed out, as ridiculous as that is. I think the Iranian intelligence apparatus is who's running this, and that is something that does alarm me, because I think they've probably had their hand in the majority of things that Iran has done over the years, whether it's proxy wars or terrorist attacks. Their intelligence apparatus is vast and it's highly trained, and they affect other nations like Cuba, Russia, China, Venezuela, and you start to see how all these nations work together when you look at intelligence, not just oil or economic things such as basically the back and forth that we have with China and Russia. Their intelligence, Iran's intelligence operations and apparatus are directing this in a not so roundabout way, and I believe that should be the main target now. I think that the tactical strikes that we hit, the things that we are hitting with our air campaign, very important. They will stop majority of this, and they will stop the ability of Iran to continue to go forward, because they're going to run out of missiles and bombs and kill the majority of the military leaders. However, the true leadership and the mastermind behind all this is the Iranian intelligence apparatus. That should be the president's number one target, to disrupt and then destroy and eliminate that apparatus, just like we did with Hitler in World War II and the Third Reich. It needs to be eliminated.
Oh, Jonathan, my brain is combusting because I have so many thoughts that I want to ask you. I want to ask you about Tulsi. I want to ask you more about Joe Kent. But We have 30 seconds, and I am going to ask you this. President Trump delaying his high-stakes trip to China as the war with Iran intensifies. The visit originally was set for late March, now pushed back to about at least 5 or 6 weeks. He says he's going to stay in Washington to focus on the conflict. Officials say the U.S. is urging global powers, including China, to help secure the Strait of Hormuz, of course, a critical oil route that we've already discussed. How important will this trip to China be, and how much do you think this decision might have to do with the recent news about China spying on him?
Well, I think he knows China spies on him. They all spy on each other. I think this is an incredible power move by the president because, look, he took out the leader of Venezuela, the crooked leader Maduro, who did China's bidding. Now he has just laid waste of the leadership in Venezuela, which is the second biggest.
Oh,
well,
he went away.
We lost him.
We gave him 30 seconds. He
gave
took
him 30
12.
seconds, and we cut him off. Sorry, Jonathan.
All right, we'll get you the next 18 seconds, Jonathan, next time. Thank you, Jonathan. Who am I talking to, guys? I'm talking to Jonathan, but he's gone. So, all right. Coming up, your resting heart rate could be telling you more than you think. 60 to 100 beats per minute, that's normal, but consistently too high or too low could be a warning sign. Doctors say it's not just the number, it's actually how your heart is working overall. So what is your heart really saying? We have the facts next on American Sunrise as we go looking for Jonathan Gilliam.
But please don't come from
America, it's time to make some noise. Scan the QR code right now and download the new song, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Or search for it on iTunes and download it today. In a world filled with chaos and uncertainty, this song is a reminder of something stronger, America's grit, faith, and fortitude. From the label that brought you The Boss, Anthem of the Free, and Somali Waltz, comes the next anthem, God, Grit, and Guns by the Truth Bombers. Scan the QR code and download it now.
It's God, grit, and guns. God, grit, and guns. God, grit, and guns.
To our enemies, FAFO.
God, grit, and guns.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
Here we go, all of us.
Wow, that's good.
I'm fueled up now.
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
My kids to think and pray, to know the cause before they say, I don't scare easy, I don't scare fast. It's God, grit, and guns, no fear.
I finally finally I get my Dublin shot. I just love this shot. I think it's so fun. I hope everybody had a fun St. Patrick's Day yesterday. I hope that you had a good time and are up early watching our show. And I guess if you're hearing me say this, then guess what? You are. Welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm Dr. Gina. Thanks for joining us. Time now for today's health news, sponsored by the Wellness Company. Under the microscope today, a new report says your smartwatch may be giving you a deeper look into your heart health than ever before. Experts say normal resting heart rate ranges between 60 and 100 beats per minute. And in many cases, a lower rate can indicate a stronger, more efficient heart. However, doctors warn that numbers outside that range, whether too high or too low, could signal potential problems, including cardiovascular issues or other underlying conditions. Specialists emphasize that resting heart rate is only one piece of that puzzle. They say true heart health also depends on factors like cardiac output, the amount of blood your heart pumps each minute, and overall cardiovascular function. It is fun. Like, I don't know if you guys have the Oura Ring or you know, all the little accessories that go with the smartwatch or whatever, but it is fun to kind of get to have that insight all the time. And to know like how many steps you took, and it does help us. We should all be so healthy. We have so many great tools today. The Trump administration has brought a lot of positive changes when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system too. The reality, though, there's only so much the government can do. If you really want to make America healthy again, it's going to start at home with each of us, and that's where the Wellness Company comes in. You see their doctors all the time on this show, that you know that their products are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy. The Wellness Company makes sure you're prepared for whatever happens with their prescription medical kits. These kits have an assortment of life-saving medications and guidebooks that assist in the proper use of the meds in the kits. Additionally, the Wellness Company has a lot of products: parasite cleanses, methylene blue, weight loss, so much more. These help you stay healthy, live a longer, more satisfying life. Make America healthy again starts at home. Do your part, protect the health of yourself and your family. Go to twc.health/RAV today. Give it an order. That's twc.health/RAV. Use the promo code RAV. It'll save you 10%. David Brody.
Okay, well, if it's going to save me 10%, I'm on it. Thank you, Gina. You bet. A new conservative coalition says it's launching a national push to tackle what it calls the affordability crisis. The group, called the Coalition for Affordability and Prosperity, says it's going to target guaranteed income programs emerging in cities and counties across the country. So leaders argue that those cash payment programs could drive inflation, increase government spending, put more burden on taxpayers. The coalition says it plans to use research, media campaigns, and lobbying to push back as guaranteed income programs continue to gain traction in some communities across the country. So let's bring in the executive director of the Coalition for Affordability and Prosperity. That would be Chuck Flint. Chuck, welcome back here. Tell us more about the group and how it formed and how far the work can go and all of that good stuff.
David, thanks for having me on. Dr. Gina, great to be with you.
Good to have you.
Look, we don't feel like there's enough being done right now to talk about affordability and paint the contrast between the two choices, because there's a big contrast. There's either the managed decline of big government solutions that the Democrats are slapping the affordability tag on, or you can take free enterprise out. And that's time-tested and true. It bankrupted the Soviet Union. Guaranteed basic income is one of these programs, managed decline. You have to think about why these recipients are there in the first place. And David and Dr. Gina, these people are actually victims. They're victims of policies that have put them there in the first place. So the same people that created these programs created the same policies that ultimately created the need to have guaranteed basic income. And it just kind of writes itself.
Chuck, I want to talk to you about the midterms and get your thoughts. Rising gas prices, something we're not prices, something we are hearing so much about, especially from our audience here. They hate this part. A political challenge, let's be honest, for Republicans heading into November as global oil markets face disruptions. Prices at the pump keep jumping up. That's just how it works. Analysts keep saying, hey, this is probably going to keep happening. It's probably not coming down anytime soon. But this also, of course, causes food prices to go up and shipping to go up and other everyday expenses. This rise in energy might really do some damage to Republicans' messaging about lowering the cost of living, which is, of course, going to be, I think, the major issue in the 2026 campaign. So, Chuck, What happens here? What are your predictions? What can Republicans even do at this point? Because it's getting late in the game.
Dr. Gina, it is going to be a focal point. Prices are very important. What is happening right now is we are paying a war premium at the pump. It's a war premium, and the pain at the pump is real, but it's temporary. This is managed. It's not a structural flaw in the economy. It's a reaction to a global event, and we will have the Strait of Hormuz under control shortly. 20% of the world's oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz, and so when we secure that, things will be fine. But one thing that's not talked about enough is we could be actually in a better position to handle this if we hadn't gutted offshore drilling, if we hadn't stopped approving licenses for LNG exports, and also in the last 4 years under President Biden, there were Strategic Petroleum Reserve was drained to its lowest levels in 40 years. Those things also need to be discussed.
I remember we were all complaining about that then, saying, gosh, if we need those oil reserves, because of war or whatever, it's going to put us in a really compromised position. And here we are. Chuck Flint, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up, Van Jones says it. Democrats are sticking to their guns in the DHS shutdown fight, even as disruptions could grow. How far will they go? We're going to assess. That's next on American Sunrise.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
Here we go, all of us.
Wow, that's good.
I'm fueled up now.
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
Welcome back. Coffee pods are easy, but most of them are just caffeine and nothing else. Rejuvenate pods are built differently. They're clean pods infused with CA-AKG, a compound linked to longevity, metabolism, and deep cellular energy. It's the easiest way to get better focus, smoother energy, and long-term benefits without changing your routine. I choose them because they match the lifestyle I want. More energy, more clarity, and more intention in how I start my day. If you're going to drink coffee anyway, make it one that actually supports the life you're building. Head to 1775coffee.com/Rav and try Rejuvenate Pods today. Don't just drink coffee, rejuvenate. All right, now that we are caffeinated, it's time to stay awake, not woke. And who is woke today? CNN commentator Van Jones, who is calling on Democrats to keep fighting on the issue of DHS funding. Watch this.
No, I think Democrats have to stick to their guns because it's inconvenient as it is in an airport. It's a lot more inconvenient to have ICE agents doing all kind of terrible stuff, and they should be put back in a box. However, I was in Austin trying to leave South by Southwest. I had a 6 a.m. flight. I got there at 3 a.m. There were people literally outside wrapped around. It was complete, unbelievable lines. I had pre-check and clear. I barely made my flight. And then they pulled the plane out because it's time to go, but the plane's only half full. And the bags are there. You don't have. So we literally had to sit on the tarmac for an hour and then come back to rebalance the plane. Meanwhile, the people who could have made the plane balance were stuck. It was just, the whole thing was so nutty.
Let's bring in Dr. Gina, David, and Terrance for further discussion. Terrance, want to get your thoughts first on this. That was a whole lot of complaining on CNN.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous. You're holding up funding for the Department of Homeland Security, specifically things that impact flyers, as he alleged to, air traffic control. And let's not forget FEMA is also under that. A lot of the country has just come out of severe weather season and might need help. All of that is on ice. And it's all for a political reason. They're putting party over the country and over what's best for the country. And it's ridiculous. Van Jones's assessment is ridiculous. And what Democrats are doing is ridiculous, David.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it like that. And just to pile on, if you think about what Van Jones is doing here, he's putting liberal priorities ahead of regular people just going to the airport. Forget about partisanship here for a second, right? There's so many people that have been inconvenienced by this, but he doesn't give a rip, even though he does give a rip, right? In other words, he spent that entire clip complaining about his experience. He was like, yeah, this is really bad, but actually, I care more about the liberal priorities, even though it's really bad out there. It's nonsensical, Gina. But then again, nonsensical and Democrats, or at least liberals, go in the same sentence.
Yeah, the Democrats have apparently never read a constitution, because there are certain things that our founding fathers wanted to be covered by the federal government. And I am not a centralized federal government person at all. I think they should only have their fingers in very limited things. But Homeland Security is actually something the government has to handle for us. Now, I know you're waiting for it, Terrance. I definitely think the TSA should be privatized. Did I mention that? But you were waiting. I know. I just had to get that in there. But there's a whole element of this that has nothing to do with the TSA. There's a whole element of this that has to actually do with security. And he's the audacity to literally complain about it on the one hand and then authorize it on the other hand. It's the epitome of the leftist hypocrisy. It's why, I could just I don't get it. I want to be one of those people that says I'm an independent voter, because I think I am. But then I see things like this, and I'm like, I can't even kind of say that I might ever vote for anybody that could follow this malarkey, not even to mention killing babies, pro-choice, that whole malarkey and everything else. So I don't know.
And guys, if I can just add really quickly, the White House is willing to negotiate on some of what Democrats are calling for. Not all, not necessarily the priorities for Democrats, but the White House is at least putting a foot forward saying, all right, so look, we're willing to back off on a couple of things in order to get DHS open. But Democrats are just dug in. They're being bullheaded. I don't even know if that's a word, but I think you know what I mean. They're being bullheaded. Yeah, bullheaded. I think I just coined a new term. But they're just digging in and trying to hold out. And unfortunately, the victims of all of this are the American people. Bullheaded.
Yeah. Is that hyphenated, by the way? Bullheaded? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Terrance, do you think that the Republicans Christmas treed this up to the degree that they did so that they could negotiate some of that away and sort of almost a give and take? Or do you think that was a tactical error on the part of Republicans?
I think Republicans were doing what we thought was right, and putting it all in, being very strong on illegal immigration. And now, unfortunately, it's to some degree backfired, not because what was in the bill and the provisions are wrong, but simply because Democrats are holding the public hostage. And so now they're willing to back off on some things that may take a little bit of teeth, if you will, out of enforcement, but hopefully at the cost of getting the government, or DHS in this particular case specifically, reopened. So I think they were doing what was right, or what they thought was right, quite honestly.
Great discussion, as always. All right, coming up, revenge or righteous justice? The Bible warns, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So when you've been wronged, do you strike back or leave it in God's hands? Bible history guy Jim Mosley explains next on American Sunrise.
Get ready, America. March 25th through 28th, CPAC USA 2026 takes over the Lone Star State. And Real America's Voice brings you wall-to-wall coverage, live shows from the convention floor, exclusive interviews, powerful panels, and live music and entertainment. All from the massive Real America's Voice stage. Hear from Rav's own Steve Bannon.
The only way we don't have victory if we surrender. And we're not going to retreat. We're not going to surrender. We're not going to quit.
And Jack Posobiec live.
Freedom is a responsibility that we must uphold every single day of our lives.
Plus Dr. Gina.
We always came together because we know what we're fighting for.
Rob Schneider and Alex Stein bring the laughs with stand-up comedy. And the music lineup features Natasha Owens, Deepak, Celeste Kellogg, and more. CPAC USA 2026, only on Real America's Voice. Presented by Birch Gold Group and Patriot Mobile.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
Here we go, all of us.
Wow, that's good.
I'm fueled up now.
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
God bless the USA.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
He did create the heavens and the earth. Welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. Time now for our moment of faith. It's brought to us by Lee Greenwood and the God Bless the USA Bible. All right, in focus today, revenge. It's a powerful human instinct, but what does the Bible actually say about it? Now, while some passages speak of justice, Scripture also warns against personal vengeance, urging believers to trust God and not take matters into their own hands. All right, here to help us analyze this is our friend Jim Mosley. Let's go down the books. He's the author of The Duke of D.C., The American Dream, Discovering Jesus' Disciples, Who They Were, What They Believed, and What They Achieved. And of course, he co-wrote a book with our own Dr. G, The Days of Creation by Heart, teaching children how God made the world. Of course, around here, we call him, well, we know what we call him. We call him the Bible history guy. He's with us every week. Hey, Jim, good morning. Tell us more.
Good morning. All right. Well, listen, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And that sounds at first like maybe it's God's endorsement of retaliation, permission to strike back. But in the ancient world, the real danger wasn't people getting even. It was revenge getting out of control. One injury didn't end it. It escalated. A broken tooth becomes a shattered jaw. A single act becomes a feud. A feud becomes generations of bloodshed between families, tribes against tribes. So violence just didn't respond, it multiplied. And into that world, this biblical law appears. Not as a command to take revenge, but as a restriction on it, a boundary. You can go this far and no farther. So this idea existed in other cultures too, but there's a difference. In many of those systems, justice depended on who you were. Harm a noble, you pay one price. Harm a servant, you pay another. Justice was unequal. But in biblical law, the principle shifts to equal justice under law, like we have. The punishment matches the crime, not the social status. Now, even then, it wasn't always applied literally. Later Jewish interpretation understood it as compensation, a way to restore loss without fueling the cycle of violence. Because once revenge takes hold, it rarely stops where you want it to. That's why centuries later, Mahatma Gandhi, reflecting on the teachings of Jesus, warned, if we live by an eye for an eye, the whole world will go blind. But the law was never meant to blind the world. It was meant to keep it from destroying itself. In the Count of Monte Cristo, the Abbe Faria says, if you plan revenge, first dig your own grave. Because revenge doesn't just consume your enemy, it consumes you. And then the Bible takes this unexpected turn. Jesus says, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. Love your enemies. So this is a shift from limiting revenge to letting it go. So is revenge allowed in the Bible? In one sense, it is, but in a restrained way. In another sense, it's transformed and ultimately redirected. That's why God says vengeance is mine, not ours. Jesus tells us to forgive, and if we don't forgive, God will not forgive us or hear our prayers. To say two wrongs don't make a right, but they make it even, that's not godly. The deeper biblical message isn't about getting even. It's about breaking the cycle of violence. In a world that always pushes evil further, God draws a line, and then through Christ, he shows us how to rise above that.
Just phenomenal. Sunday school on a Wednesday. That's what this is. I've decided. By the way, can I rent your intellect? What's the going rate for your intellect?
I have to figure that one out.
Yeah, you give me a price. I'm sure you will. All right, talk to my agent. All right, Jim Mosley. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, and just to confirm, I don't have an agent. Wish I did. No, I didn't. No, I don't. They don't need 10%. Back with the second hour of American Sunrise in 2 minutes. Stick around, everybody.
Introducing the limited edition God Bless the USA Bible, inspired by Lee Greenwood's hit song and the most recognized patriotic anthem in America, God Bless the USA. The God Bless the USA large print leather-bound King James Bible also contains America's founding documents, the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance, along with a handwritten chorus to Lee Greenwood's song, God Bless the USA. With its large print and slim design, this Bible invites you to explore God's Word anywhere, anytime. The God Bless the USA Bible makes the perfect gift and cherished family heirloom keepsake to pass on to future generations. Designed for an easy reading experience in the trusted King James Version translation, this large print Bible is perfect to take to church, Bible study, work, and for traveling. Order yours today at GodBlessTheUSABible.com.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news. Breaking news. News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
Here we go, all of us.
Wow, that's good.
I'm fueled up now.
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
Coming up on this second hour of American Sunrise, the head of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, has officially stepped down, citing opposition to the war in Iran. The move comes just 24 hours before top intelligence officials are set to testify on Capitol Hill. We'll talk about the impact of the move as Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel, among others, are set to talk with lawmakers here in just a little bit. Also ahead, Congressman Andy Ogles is preparing legislation that would overhaul immigration rules. The bill would scrap what he calls the H-1B visa scam, among other changes. He'll join us live in just a few minutes to explain. And later, a new poll is shedding light on what American voters really care about ahead of this year's midterm elections. Here's a quick break for you. It's not the war in Iran. We'll break all of the numbers down for you. Those stories and so much more right now on this second hour of American Sunrise.
Good morning, America.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
Whether it's culture,
We have breaking news to share with you.
politics,
President Trump is joining us live now from Florida.
we've got you covered.
This is what it looks like to be a patriot.
We have to protect the American family.
The American dream is still alive.
I'm David Brody.
I'm Terrance.
And I'm Dr. Gina.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second hour of American Sunrise. I'm David Brody, coming to you from D.C. Let's bring in Dr. G in West Palm Beach. T. Bates in our Denver newsroom. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning, David.
They have me with the big head again today.
Yes.
Look, I look way bigger than Terrance. Got it. I'm gonna have to go on those GLP-1s.
I'm not so sure how to take that.
Yeah.
Well, you're a guy who probably weighs maybe twice what I do. I would hope I wouldn't look bigger than you.
Well, I know the crew has issues with me framing me up in the 3 box because my ego, it takes up the full.
Takes up the full. That might be what it is. Yeah, that might be it.
I think so. Yeah.
Well,
anyhow,
that's why you were in the sauna the other day, is to take some of that out, to deflate a little bit. Yeah, I went there.
Yes, that's where we're going.
Wait,
that's
Terrance,
where we're going.
I want to know what happened the other day when you called your beautiful wife. What was it? Very big? Or what was it? Do you remember that? I'm like, wait, Terrance, what did you just say? You didn't mean that. You meant like big personality or... I can't remember now.
I do not recall that moment, and I will move on so that I don't get myself in any more trouble. Yes, I do not recall that was not me.
Cue the news music.
Right. In fact, Dr. Gina, that was Clarence that you were referring to, not Terrance. That was Clarence.
Terrance's alter ego now is making its debut on the show.
There you go.
You know what? I'm going to the sauna.
Hey, well, while David takes the trip to the sauna, Dr. Gina, let's get a quick check of our forecast. Weather Nation meteorologist Tracy Anthony joining us really quickly with some of our hometown forecasts. And I guess west of the Mississippi, it's going to be pretty warm elsewhere and not much to talk about. I don't know. Tracy, good morning.
I know you guys have me rolling back here, too. This is awesome. Yeah, pretty chilly across the southeast. We've got that warm heat out across the west. That's where we're definitely going to have some of the, highest temperatures, record settings. So going to touch on both those areas in the hometown forecast. Take you out to Sneads, Florida, a new city for me. I had to look this one up, but it's up in the Panhandle north of Tallahassee. 62 degrees today, 71 tomorrow, and then we're going to be back in the 80s for the weekend. So finally feeling like Florida once again after some chilly starts. And then going to take you out to South Lake Tahoe. This from Lone Star Lady. I believe you said Tahoe in the chat. So if I was wrong, I was just assuming it's maybe a spring break destination, something like that. 66 degrees today. This warmth is going to cause some issues if you know anyone that's traveling out west for spring break. They are going to be skiing and snowboarding on ice, and avalanche danger is elevated across parts of the Rocky Mountains and out to the Cascades. So, Terrance, I know being in Denver, you probably know a lot of people that kind of come and go this time of year for spring break, but it is going to be warm and it's going to be kind of a sloppy mess if there's even any snow left on some of those slopes.
Yeah, they'll probably make snow and all that good stuff. Going to be in the 80s here in Colorado, or at least in the Denver area. I'm so happy for that. Thanks so much, Tracy.
Yep.
All right. Let's get you back over to David. I believe he's returned from the sauna. Yes, he has. I have confirmation now. David, good morning.
Good morning. I'm a little sweaty, but I'm good. Thank you, Terrance. All right. President Trump is responding to the resignation of former National Counterterrorism Center Director Joe Kent, who stepped down yesterday, citing objections over military operations in Iran. In a public letter posted on social media, Kent wrote, quote, "I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby." Here was President Trump's response.
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was.
All right, joining us now with reaction is Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles. Congressman, good morning to you. Thanks for being here in American Sunrise. So Kent says Iran posed no imminent threat. He urged the president to return what he called an America First foreign policy on his way out. What do you make of his comments and this idea of an imminent threat? The president says there's an imminent threat. Caroline Leavitt has talked about that there's been this imminent threat. Apparently, there's been classified briefings detailing the imminent threat. But then when we get rid of when you come out of the classified briefings, Republicans say there's an imminent threat. Democrats say there's not. What's going on, and what does the public need to know about the actual imminent threat? Not the 47 years. We know that's the deal. We know Iran's killed 1,000+ Americans, but what about the imminent threat part? Good morning to you.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. So, as chairman of the Homeland Security Cyber Subcommittee, I get classified briefings that a lot of members of Congress don't get. I can tell you that there is an imminent threat. I can tell you that we see day in and day out Iran, their proxies, trying to attack the United States, whether it's in the cyberspace or through one of their proxies. And then I would say look at October 7th. And obviously, that's not the United States of America, but it demonstrates the capabilities and the planning and the commitment to violence that Iran is willing to commit. And what I can say, unfortunately, is we have those same types of terrorists that were allowed in under Joe Biden. More specifically, we know countries like Venezuela was giving Hezbollah terrorists, I'll say that again, that Venezuela was giving Hezbollah terrorists fake identification so that they could come into this country undetected, and now they've disappeared into our fabric and the framework of our society, and we have no idea where they are. So that being said, we have sleeper cells in this country. We have sleeper cells that are willing and ready to attack. And over the last 3 weeks, we've seen 4 terrorist attacks by Muslims across this country. The shooting in Virginia, the shooting in Texas, the bomb thrower in New York, and the car attack in Michigan. So is there an imminent threat? I think clearly there is.
What you've just described in terms of these sleeper cells being here in the United States, I would imagine motivated this bill that you're preparing that would basically implement major changes to our immigration system. Taking to taking to X, excuse me, you talked a bit about the Assimilation Act, writing that it would end the H-1B visa scam, it would end chain migration, and create a whole new character-based system that would make America look like America again. Tell us a little bit more about about what you're trying to accomplish here? And I guess part B of that question, are you concerned that your measure even gets any traction, given that House leadership is to some degree promising that it's not going to take up any new bills until the Save America Act finally makes it through the Senate, which it doesn't look like that's going to happen?
Well, what I can tell you is across this country, immigration is, Republican, Democrat, black, white, male, female is an 80-20 issue. People want, if you're coming here to this country, they want you to be vetted. They want you to come here legally. So my bill is a common sense approach. So in 1965, the Hart-Celler Act was passed, which allowed for this chain migration where you have people coming into this country unvetted. And so when you look at this character component to it, so if someone has a criminal record back in their home country. So what we've seen, individuals from Mexico, Central and South America literally were murderers, rapists, violent assaults in their home countries, and they came here, and guess what they did? They murdered, they raped, and they committed violent assaults. We can now, with my bill, look at that, look at their history, look at their affiliation with, MS-13 or Trinidad, some other violent gang, and say, you know what, we don't think you should be here. And quite frankly, it's our country. We get to decide who comes in, and we get to decide who leaves. But this takes the fraud and the abuse out of the system. It ends the H-1B visa scam, and once again, puts Americans first.
Congressman, a couple of Joe Kent tweets I think are very interesting. One that President Trump posted, it says we should not sit and wait for the next attack. Wipe Iran's ballistic capability out, get our troops out of Iraq. They are only targets now. No U.S. WIA, KIA is a tribute to the professionalism of our military and intel professionals, not Iranian restraint. And then he also posted on X, definitely, I personally think we should have crushed their ballistic and nuke capes, but Trump has a plan. He definitely has earned the confidence of any clear-eyed observer. That's from January 20th. So I'm really confused what he's talking about. Like, if that was his view at one point, did he just change positions? Is something going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing?
Well, look, Joe Kent, great guy, a hero. I think he was deployed, I think it was 11 times. His wife was killed in Syria. He's truly an American hero. But I disagree with him on this issue. I see Iran as we know they are the number one. Again, Iran is the number one funder of global terror. Hard stop. That's it. That's all you need to know. They are funding terrorism all over this globe. They are radicalizing and deploying individuals into Africa, into South America, onto our own soil. It's time to put an end to it. And what we've seen is that when these individuals go into a country, look at Europe, look at the crime in Europe, whether it's London, Paris, or Rome, they change communities, the crime goes up. Look, the UK and Sweden have become the rape capitals of Europe to countries that otherwise you would assume would be safe. But because of this chain migration, primarily from North Africa and the Middle East. And we have to have a very honest conversation about immigration, about how we're vetting and who we're letting into this country.
Congressman Andy Ogles, really appreciate your time. And thanks for everything you're doing.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Congressman.
All right, great stuff. Coming up, a social media post from the office of California Governor Gavin Newsom. It's sparking controversy. It targeted a journalist investigating fraud in Gavin's state. That is next after the break.
I don't make threats, I don't blow. It's God written gun.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the RAV Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
Here we go, all of us.
Wow, that's good.
I'm fueled up now.
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the RAV Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm Emily Finn. Time now to drain the swamp, and this morning we are flushing out taxpayer fraud in California. A new controversy is erupting in the Golden State after the press office for Governor Gavin Newsom targeted an independent journalist investigating possible fraud in state programs. Journalist Nick Shirley traveled to California to look into alleged abuse in taxpayer-funded programs, but instead of addressing the claims, Newsom's official press office posted a message on social media mocking Shirley, sparking backlash from critics who say the state should focus on investigating fraud, not attacking those who report it. We want to know what you think. Let us know on Rumble or Getter. Hop on and let your voice be heard. Coming up, we're headed down to Wall Street for the opening bell and insight into how to hold on to your hard-earned dollars with some common sense. We'll be back with more American Sunrise in just 2 minutes. Stick around.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free
Breaking news from Real America's Voice.
We are back with breaking news as White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is taking the podium outside the White House. Here she is.
We did not consult NATO before the war began, and it's a defensive alliance, obviously, that doesn't traditionally engage in the Middle East preemptively. Why is it fair for the president to expect NATO allies to help now after the fact?
NATO allies benefit far more from the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz than the United States does. As you know, thanks to this president's energy agenda, we are a net exporter of oil. We have enough resources here at home for our people, and that's a good thing, thanks to President Trump. The Strait opening is obviously good for America because it will stabilize the global oil industry. It will bring prices down again, but it greatly benefits Europe and our allies in NATO, and the president wants to see them do more. Look, I think you guys know this. One of the president's guiding principles is fairness, and he's long called out NATO for being what he believes sometimes an unfair alliance for the American taxpayer and our American military. You look at the billions of dollars we spend housing U.S. troops on the soil of our NATO ally countries. That's a benefit to them because it serves as a deterrent from our adversaries around the world. If you look at our unfair trade deals with many of our NATO allies, the president and his trade team have obviously worked to rectify those new trade deals with the UK, with the EU. The president wants all of our alliances to be fair for the American people, for the American taxpayer, and I think he's right to call on them to step up and do more in this time.
Follow up. I'll ask one other question, leave that to others, which is very simply: can the president declare this war effort a success if the U.S. does not retrieve Iran's nuclear fuel?
Look, that's something the president has refused to comment on. It's an option on the table for him, but I'm not going to comment on it or take it off the table. We've defined the objectives of Operation Epic Fury very clearly, which is, of course, to wipe out Iran's ballistic missile arsenal, which we have been very successful in doing. We've achieved dominance over the skies of Iran, to annihilate their navy, which we have done. According to CENTCOM this morning, I received the updated numbers. More than 120 naval vessels are at the bottom of the sea because of our United States Armed Forces. That's a great thing for the American people. That's a great thing for our allies in the region, and of course to ensure that yes, Iran cannot permanently cannot possess a nuclear weapon is something this president has long said for decades. But I'm not going to forecast or remove any future options off the table.
They still have the ability to produce a nuclear weapon or no?
Look, again, we're in a place right now where we're ensuring that Iran can no longer threaten the United States of America, and the United States military is doing a tremendous job at achieving these objectives.
Caroline, is Tulsi Gabbard's job in jeopardy right now, given the Joe Kent stuff?
Not to my knowledge. I haven't heard the president say that, nor have I heard him say that. So obviously that's a question for him, but I haven't heard him to say that at all.
And can you give us an update on what you're hearing from the Chinese about when this trip might be rescheduled?
We're working with them. They have agreed to postpone the trip. I think they understand the president's rationale for doing so. But again, we're working on those dates. The president has some things here at home in May that he has to attend to, and I'm sure President Xi is a very busy man as well. So we'll get the dates on the books as soon as we can, and we'll keep all of you posted.
Caroline, given that the allies seem to have rebuffed the president's request for help, and now he says he no longer needs their help, what is the plan to reopen the Strait of Hormuz quickly?
The president is going to continue to talk to our allies, both in Europe and also in the Gulf and Arab region. The United States military has a lot of capabilities, as you have seen play out over the last 18 days. They still do have tricks up their sleeve. I won't broadcast them for the media, but rest assured there is a plan. They're working on it. We have seen some progress with respect to that, but of course the president, again, continues to call on our allies to step up and do more. Nancy.
Caroline, a couple of questions on Joe Kent. The White House was warned last year when the president nominated Kent that he had a history of embracing conspiracy theories, that he had some ties to white nationalists. Given that, why did the president nominate him to the position in the first place?
The president spoke on this a little bit yesterday in the Oval Office. He said he always thought Joe Kent was a good guy, obviously has a commendable military record and experience. However, he was not someone who was involved in the presidential daily brief, part of the president's intelligence briefings over the last several months. Have not seen him here at the White House for quite some time, and the president feels it's deeply disappointing that after the president gave him an opportunity in this administration to serve the American people, that he would resign it with a letter filled with falsehoods, accusing the president of the United States by being controlled by a foreign country. That's both insulting and laughable all at the same time. The president is the leader of the most powerful country and military in the world. Nobody tells him what to do. He makes decisions based on what's in the best interest of this country.
Sorry, the president said yesterday that he always thought Kent was weak on security. Why would he name someone to run the counterterrorism center who he thought was weak on security?
Again, I just told you, the president gave Joe Kent a chance. He thought he was a good guy with good military experience, and unfortunately, he proved he was not up for the job. And we don't want somebody leading the counterterrorism task force who cannot agree that the #1 state sponsor of terror in this world did not pose a threat to the United States. That's what another falsehood he said in his letter of resignation, which is just unequivocally false. It's backed by intelligence. It's backed by the fact that Iran was building ballistic missiles at a rapid rate to build a shield of immunity immunity so they could build a nuclear bomb. And it's backed by the fact that the president of the United States made the decision to attack Iran before they could attack American troops and our assets and bases in the region. And that was, of course, a good decision, not just for the United States, but for the rest of the world. It should be commended. It should not be degraded in the form of a resignation letter that's riddled with lies. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline.
That was White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt addressing a number of issues. The last issue she talked about was Joe Kent's resignation. That, of course, has been in the headlines. She also talked a lot about the war in Iran and NATO being hesitant to join the efforts to secure the Hormuz Strait. We'll, of course, have more on all of that throughout the day here on Real America's Voice. Now, though, let's get you over to Dr. Gina. Dr. G, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Terrance. I know this is a big concern to you. As we age, skin becomes naturally thinner, drier, more fragile, and less elastic, often developing wrinkles. Well, when doesn't it? Like, who doesn't have any wrinkles? Actually, I have seen people that are really old that don't have wrinkles, and you want to know what their secrets are. So that's where we try to go with this. Sagging and age spots can be a problem as well. When we've been so focused on our faces, people are starting to notice the changes on their bodies, especially with the use of the GLP-1s, leaving skin crepey and saggy with more dark spots. So, of course, this is worse in cold, dry climates. Joining us now to discuss what you can do about all of this is Robin L. Smith. Good morning, Robin.
Dr. Gina, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Talk to us about what we can do to protect our skin so we can all look our best for the upcoming spring and summer.
Yeah, especially our faces, our bodies. We all need sunscreen for sure to protect us from the environment and the sun, which causes so much damage. But also, it's, the cold weather makes you dehydrate. And as you said, all these things that cause the wrinkling, the sagging, changes in your nutrition, especially with those GLP-1s and, different hormone shifts. And you're not producing the oils that are necessary. So you really need to use products that are rich in things like glycerin, which is a humectant, fatty acids, which nourish and protect, and all kinds of other oils that really can be very important to bring the nutrients, the hydration, and protect that skin barrier so that you don't bruise as easily. And the age spots can be less as your skin is turning over. And, different products that help regenerate, rejuvenate, and restore the skin.
What happens to our skin over time? Why do we lose that baby skin?
Well, you have a decrease in your ability to make collagen. You make less collagen and elastin and hyaluronic acid every year. And the hormones, change within our body, and that has a dramatic effect on our skin. And of course, nutritional changes and the environment, the sun, smoking, other things that really damage our skin, and we just don't have that ability to repair and restore it like we did when we were younger. So you lose that incredible, baby soft skin.
So what is the secret to really getting a product to penetrate the skin? Because, I've read a lot about, do you take vitamin C for your skin internally? Do you put it on externally? There's all of these questions. You talked about the hyaluronic acid, which I can't apparently say that word. But to get it to go into your skin, that's really the trick, to get it to penetrate into the deepest layers. How do we do that?
Absolutely. So, at Exoceuticals, we build products, our Exo Body and Exo Sun, which is incredible in the ability, because it uses exosomes, and the exosomes go deep at the cellular level to help your cells of the skin make more collagen and elastin. But also you need ingredients like our hyaluronic acid has 7 molecular weights, and it goes deep into the dermis, and it allows you to pull moisture in from the outside as well as the inside. So anything that you can do, both at a cellular level as well as topically, will help you enhance the skin, the texture, when you make elastin and collagen, so you get, you don't have that sort of crepey, bouncy, you get more, more taut skin. But also the hydration is just critical to reduce wrinkles, that appearance of wrinkles, improve the elasticity, make it firmer, and smooth things out, especially places where you have cellulite. And so these ingredients are really important to go, as you said, deeper into the skin to change at a cellular level.
Yeah, and last time I was with you, you told me one of your hacks. I'm going to tell our audience. You told me you like to use that your favorite product, at least at that moment, was the After Sun product. And so I started using that under my makeup, and I absolutely love. It's not too heavy. It's nice and light, but it makes my makeup go on nice and evenly, and keeps my skin tone really, really nice even when I remove my makeup. And so I appreciated that little hack. Wanted to pass that along, but all of the products are incredible. I love them so much. And Dr. Robin Smith, it's just nice to be partnered with you on this, making people feel good about themselves so naturally.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, let's head back to Terrance in Denver for the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange, sponsored, of course, by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
It's 7:30 on the dot, which means, well, 7:30 my time, 7:30 Mountain, 9:30 Eastern, which means the markets are opening as we speak. The opening bell about to ring here momentarily, and then we'll get an idea of how things are looking. There you go. The bell is ringing. Markets are open. Let's take a quick look here. Not looking so hot at the top of our board at the moment. The Dow, S&P 500, and the NASDAQ all in the red. We, of course, will continue to monitor all of this for you throughout the day and keep you updated. Still to come here on American Sunrise, though, a new poll shows that Americans heading into the 2026 midterms are focused on one issue above all others, and that would be the cost of living. With inflation, gas prices, and everyday expenses still rising, voters across party lines say that their finances are front of mind. We'll talk about it next.
Get ready, America. March 25th through 28th, CPAC USA 2026 takes over the Lone Star State. And Real America's Voice brings you wall-to-wall coverage, live shows from the convention floor, exclusive interviews, powerful panels, and live music and entertainment. All from the massive Real America's Voice stage. Hear from Rav's own Steve Bannon.
The only way we don't have victory if we surrender. And we're not going to retreat. We're not going to surrender. We're not going to quit.
And Jack Posobiec live.
Freedom is a responsibility that we must uphold every single day of our lives.
Plus Dr. Gina.
We always came together because we know what we're fighting for.
Rob Schneider and Alex Stein bring the laughs with stand-up comedy. And the music lineup features Natasha Owens, Deepak, Celeste Kellogg, and more. CPAC USA 2026, only on Real America's Voice. Presented by Birch Gold Group and Patriot Mobile. Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play. From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice. Breaking news from Real America's Voice.
We are back with breaking news as the confirmation hearing for Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma is set to get underway here momentarily. Actually, it looks like it's just getting underway. Mullin, of course, is up for Homeland Security Secretary. If confirmed, he would replace Kristi Noem. Let's listen in really quickly, and we'll talk as the opportunity presents itself.
Grind upon each other. My lung was damaged. For weeks, I could inhale but not have the rib strength to exhale. I developed 2 pneumonias. The pain was such that I could only sit up in bed by tying a rope to the foot of the bed and pulling myself up. But even then, the pain was that of 1,000 knives. Over the year of recovery, I began to cough up blood. I underwent removal of part of my lung. Complications led to an infection in the space between my lung and chest wall. I spent a week in the hospital having the infection lavaged every 6 hours through a chest tube. Recently, Senator Mullin, if you have time to listen, you were confronted by constituents that were angry because you voted against my amendment to stop all funding for refugee welfare programs. Instead of explaining your vote to continue these welfare programs for refugees, you decided to transfer the blame. You told the media that I was a freaking snake and that you completely understood why I had been assaulted. I was shocked that you would justify and celebrate this violent assault that caused me so much pain and my family so much pain. I just wonder if someone who applauds violence against their political opponents is the right person to lead an agency that has struggled to accept limits to the proper use of force. You might argue you were mad and upset about being confronted by your constituents. But Senator Mullin, your constituents are justifiably upset with you. By now, most of America knows that the Somali welfare fraud in Minnesota stole over $9 billion. But instead of defending your vote, you took to continue the vote to continue these refugee welfare programs. You chose to lash out at me. You went on to brag that you'd already told me to my face that you completely understood and approved of the assault. Well, that's a lie. You got a chance today. You can either continue to lie or you can correct the record. You have never had the courage to look me in the eye and tell me that the assault was justified. So today you'll have your chance. Today, I'll give you that chance to clear the record. Tell it to my face. If that's what you believe, tell it to me today. Tell the world why you believe I deserve to be assaulted from behind, have 6 ribs broken, and a damaged lung. Tell me to my face why you think I deserved it. And while you're at it, explain to the American public why they should trust a man with anger issues to set the proper example for ICE and Border Patrol agents. Explain to the American public how a man who has no regrets about brawling in a Senate committee can set a proper example for over 250,000 men and women who work at the Department of Homeland Security. Senator Peters, you're recognized for your opening comment.
Well, thank you, Chairman Paul. Thank you, Senator Mullin, for being here today. Congratulations on your nomination. And I certainly appreciate your willingness to meet with me as well as my staff as we consider your nomination to serve as Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. I'd also like to welcome your family who is joining us today and to thank all of them for their commitment to public service. We do it as a family, as you know. The Department of Homeland Security is a complicated organization with challenging operational dynamics. As everyone is well aware, many components within DHS are currently operating without funding. But let's be clear, Democrats are committed to funding TSA, FEMA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and the Coast Guard while we negotiate much needed ICE reforms. We tried to pass those bills by unanimous consent multiple times over the past 2 weeks. Unfortunately, Republicans have blocked those bills each and every time. Yesterday, the White House sent a letter laying out their latest offer, but the devil is always in the details. Administrative action is not enough. We need to pass real reforms into law. If Republicans really do agree with us that TSA and other personnel need to be paid, then they should join us and pass the bills to pay them today. We can do that while we continue to negotiate needed ICE reforms. But let me be clear, these are very straightforward reforms that we're asking for. We just want ICE to follow the same rules that our local police and our local communities follow every day. The DHS has faced management challenges since the start of the Trump administration, and over the past year, many of those challenges have unfortunately only increased. As soon as President Trump was sworn in, he made deep cuts to counterterrorism offices and programs, forced out or reassigned key personnel, and redirected the focus of limited remaining counterterrorism resources away from the serious threats that we face and towards targeting the president's perceived political enemies. The administration has also gutted our nation's main cybersecurity agency, once again forcing out or reassigning highly talented personnel, slashing budgets, and limiting the agency's work to help private companies address significant cyber attacks and protect Americans from criminal hackers and support secure elections. The administration has also taken an axe to FEMA, cutting staff and freezing or delaying critical grant funding for everything from emergency food and shelter after a disaster to flood mitigation programs and security grants to nonprofits, including houses of worship. All these cuts and reassignments have been made at the expense of vital missions, including the core terrorism prevention and response mission the department was created to address. In doing so, the Trump administration has broken trust between law enforcement and the communities they are intended to protect, a break that will have a generational impact on public safety and security. And now, after President Trump's reckless war of choice against Iran, the threats to our nation have never been higher. In my home state of Michigan, just last week, we saw both a major medical device manufacturer get hacked by an Iranian-backed group and a horrific violent attack on Temple Israel, a Metro Detroit area synagogue. President Trump's unilateral and unchecked executive actions have put Americans at risk, and we need a steady, qualified leader at the Department of Homeland Security to address these serious threats. How the Homeland Security Secretary responds to a crisis sends signals to everyone, from the department's own personnel to the American people and to the entire world. It's not the role of the Secretary to be a cable news commentator in the wake of a crisis. The Secretary's role is to lead the response and work to ensure the department that they are leading isn't actually the cause of the crisis. A secretary who jumps to conclusions without the facts, as we saw in the case of Renee Good and Alex Preddy's killings, only worsens the situation and actually makes us less safe. This is a role where temperament matters, where judgment matters, and where experience matters. We have seen under Secretary Noem's leadership how shortcomings in these traits can compound the challenges that already come with leading a large and complex department. And now, more than ever, we need a DHS secretary who is a steady hand, who will provide thoughtful leadership, follow the facts, tell the truth, and hold agency officials accountable when they need to be held accountable. We need a DH secretary who's committed to the rule of law and who will protect and cooperate with independent oversight, whether that's from the Inspector General or from members of Congress. And we need a DHS secretary who is free from distractions and conflicts of interest that only undercut the department's work and also break trust with the American people. Senator Mullen, I appreciate you being here today to answer our questions about these concerns and your experience and qualifications for the job. And while I'm interested in hearing more about your vision for leading the department, I do have reservations about your readiness to take on such a significant role at such a critical time. I hope you will provide us with the substantive answers today and a candid recognition of where this administration has fallen short on safeguarding our homeland security as you seek to lead the department as our nation faces ongoing security threats and war with Iran.
Senator Mullen is to be introduced today by Senator Langford. Senator Langford, you are recognized for your introduction of our witness.
Paul, thank you. Markwayne, I'm proud that you're here. I get the honor of getting a chance to be able to recognize and introduce my friend, Markwayne Mullen, my fellow senator from the state of Oklahoma, and somebody that I've seen work incredibly hard to be ready for every single task you've ever taken on, and to be able to not only do it, but do it well. There are a lot of folks that think they know you, I actually get to know you and have had the opportunity to be able to serve beside you for now over a decade and have seen your tenacity and your work effort. Folks may not know that the first time we really got to know each other, ironically enough, was around a natural disaster, a FEMA event. It was Briarwood Elementary in 2013 when a tornado came right through the heart of Oklahoma. You had literally just been elected a few weeks before that and had just taken the oath of office. The Oklahoma delegation all gathered together at the very tragic event there at Briarwood Elementary. And while we were meeting with the principal and meeting with teachers and families and walking through the debris field that was that elementary school, we turned around to be able to look for Mark Wayne. And for a minute, we couldn't find him because in one of the debris piles, there was water shooting out of the middle of it. And his plumber instinct said, I got to go find that and figure out how to solve that. And so while everyone else was shaking hands and meeting people, he was digging through the debris field to find a way to be able to shut off the water that was shooting through the middle of that destroyed elementary school. And I remember smiling and thinking, he's a guy that doesn't mind getting his hands dirty to actually go solve the problem. Where there's a problem he can solve, he's going to do whatever it takes to actually solve it. Mark Wayne grew up in a very small town in far eastern Oklahoma, ironically named Westville, in the easternmost part of Oklahoma. Just 1,300 people call Westville home. He grew up in a family of modest means. I think that'd be safe to be able to say. The youngest of 7 children in a family that just didn't have much. His dad ran a very small plumbing company that then Mark Wayne took on and grew into being one of the largest plumbing companies in the entire state. He married his high school sweetheart, one of the smartest things he ever did, at just 20 years old. And he and Christy have developed a family that is a beautiful family of 3 children they had naturally and 3 children they chose that they adopted and took them in. It is a remarkable family and a remarkable success that you have actually led through a lot of hard work and a lot of love and tenacity. He is a person of faith that is not afraid to be able to talk about his faith in Jesus Christ, but he's also a person who has deep respect for all people. Mark Wayne has served in Congress for 14 years, 11 years in the House of Representatives, 3 here in the Senate. He's passed legislation that he will now be charged with actually implementing it in the order that was actually passed. He served on the Appropriations Committee here. He's served on Armed Services. He's served on the Help Committee here, and he's done an incredible job in the work that he's done with Indian Affairs. He is somebody who has the rare gift of bringing people together on both sides of the aisle. And the one thing I would say to every single person on this dais, regardless if you're a Republican or Democrat, if you want to sit down and talk about an issue, he's glad to be able to talk about it and to be able to work it out, and has very good relationships in the House and in the Senate. And he is not afraid to ask questions when he doesn't know the answer and to be able to research things. He and I have often talked about being up late, both of us, working on researching through an issue to try to be able to learn more about it. Because the crazy thing about being in Congress is you don't know everything. You got to do the work. And Mark Wayne is not afraid to do the work. Over the past year and a few months, we've seen incredible progress on our southern border. Our southern border 18 months ago, I think we forget what it looked like. 12,000 people a day illegally crossing our border, just being waved in. No vetting, no background checks, 12,000 people a day. That is not happening anymore. Our numbers are down on the southwest border 96%. So you walk into an agency that has finally restored some order to our southern border, but there's a lot of work still to do with FEMA, with other areas of Homeland Security, and a very large agency with 250,000 people that are actually under your leadership there. So I'm confident that you'll be able to take those things on. Not only am I confident, the National Border Patrol Council has already sent a letter in strong support here. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to insert to the record the National Border Patrol Council, their letter of support, leadership of the Cherokee Nation, their strong support, and then my fellow Senator Katie Britt has an opening statement who I'd like to also submit for the record with unanimous consent.
Without objection.
Thank you. This is a person that actually lives what we affectionately call in Oklahoma the Oklahoma Standard. That when hard things actually occur, you step up and you serve your neighbor. and you find ways to be able to help people to do the hard things that have to be done. So Markwayne, I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate your willingness to be able to step up in a season where DHS needs a leader to be able to step into that role and to be able to help our nation in so many different complicated areas, especially at a time when right now we can't even get funding to DHS. We've got to be able to have good, solid leadership there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's the practice of this committee to swear in witnesses. Will the nominee please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you will give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Senator Mullen, you are recognized for your opening statement.
I think before I can start my opening statement, I have to address the remarks the chairman made, calling me a liar. Sir, I think everybody in this room knows that I'm very blunt and direct to the point, and if I have something to say, I'll say it directly to your face. If you recall, back in my House days, we actually did have this conversation because of remarks that I made. You were in a room. I simply addressed that I said I could understand because of the behavior you were having, that I could understand why the neighbor did what he did. As far as my terms of the snake in the grass, sir, I work around this room to try to fix problems. I've worked with many people in this room. Seems like you fight Republicans more than you work with us. I did address those remarks. I did explain your gimmicks by the amendment you put forth. And as far as me saying that I invoke violence, I don't. I don't think anybody should be hit by surprise. I don't like that. But if I do have something to say, everybody in this room knows I'll come straight to you. I'll say it publicly and I'll say it privately, but I'll never say it behind your back. So for you to say I'm a liar, sir, that's not accurate. And I got proof to say that because you have spent millions of dollars in my campaigns against me because we just don't get along. However, sir, that doesn't keep me at all from doing my job. I can have different opinions with everybody in this room, but as Secretary of Homeland, I'll be protecting everybody, including Kentucky, as much as I will my own backyard in Oklahoma. It's bigger than the partisan bickering that we have. It's bigger than the political differences we have. The truth is, I have a job to do, and I don't like to fail at anything at all. So I can set it aside if you're willing to set it aside. Let me earn your respect. Let me earn the job. I won't fail you. I won't back down from a challenge. And I'll also admit when I'm wrong. I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. I make mistakes just like anybody else. But mistakes, if you own them, you can learn from them and you can move ahead. And I'll make that commitment to you. Ranking Member Peters, Chairman Paul, I do thank you for this opportunity. It is a humbling experience. A kid from Westville, Oklahoma, that grew up with a dad that worked hard. He set the work example for all of us. And all my families, and my siblings, we all work hard. And I'm proud of the family we have. But to say that a kid with a bad speech impediment would one day sit up here in front of you and be nominated to be the Secretary of Homeland, it was humbling enough to be selected by Oklahoma to be their U.S. representative when I didn't even know how to tie a tie. And 10 years later, to be able to be called a United States Senator and serve with all you guys. And I respect every one of you guys. I do. Regardless if I have an opinion about you or not, you were elected by your state, and I respect that. I may disagree with you, but I respect it because we all make decisions based on two things: the way we're raised, which never changes, and our life experiences, which constantly change. For me, to be able to have the love of my life behind me, somebody I literally fell in love with in third grade, I knew I was going to marry her in eighth grade. She didn't know that yet. We had to work through that process. But at 18 years old, and I was 19, she agreed to marry me. I didn't have anything. I was on a wrestling scholarship, living in a dorm. She was cheering at Northeastern State University. I think she fell in love with my truck, because my truck was pretty cool. But the truth is, we didn't know what we didn't know, but we did know we loved each other. And I haven't been perfect. I apologize to her quite often and send her flowers all the time. But I still am humbled by the fact that we've got to enjoy this walk together. We've had God on our side and her right beside me. And to our 6 children who's been on this adventure with me, what an adventure it's been. We have a saying in our family, you're never going to change anything you're willing to tolerate. That's how we live our life, and that's how we move forward. And regardless of what's in front of us, we always take it on as a family. And I'm not scared of a challenge. I am scared of failure. And so I will work hard each day. I'll work hard to make the 280,000 employees at DHS with the 22 agencies that's underneath me proud. I'll show them somebody that no one will outwork. I'll work beside them every single day to not just secure a homeland, to bring peace of mind and confidence to the agency. My goal in 6 months is that we're not in the lead story every single day. My goal is for people to understand we're out there, we're protecting them, and we're working with them. My goal is to make every one of you guys proud. My goal, for those that don't support me, will regret not supporting me. But we have to get DHS funded. We have to. My friends, we have to set the partisan side down. And we have to realize that we're putting our homeland and the peace of mind at risk for the American people. Sometimes it's political theater, sometimes it's true differences. But what we do know is that we're playing with fire. We have 280,000 DHS employees right now that are on day 30 without pay, and they're still showing up every single day to do their job. That is a dedicated group of people. And we should all be proud of them. We should all be working together, and we should all be trying to fund them. So I pray, seriously, I pray that we can get past this. That once this hearing is over and once we go through this process, I get it. I get some of it's got to be political theater. I understand it. I've had to really pray about my attitude. But I will say, once it's over, I hope we can work together and get them funded. So when I walk in, if I'm fortunate enough to be confirmed, if I walk in as secretary, that these guys are ready to go to work day one. So God bless you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to your questions.
It's the standard practice of this committee for the chairman to ask nominees the following question. Do you agree without reservation to comply with any request or summons to appear or testify before any duly constituted committee of Congress if you're confirmed?
I do.
We'll now proceed to 7 minutes of questioning. The record should show, and I think will show, a lack of contrition, no apology, and no regrets for your support. You completely understand the violence that was perpetrated on me. You're unrepentant. The only thing you quibble about is whether I met you somehow when you were in the House. I don't think we ever met when you were in the House. And this idea that the only thing you're upset about is not that you were for violence. What you're upset about is that I called you a liar because you said it to my face. It's really more about this machismo that you have. When in Oklahoma, the media ask you about the refugee welfare programs, the programs you voted to continue funding, it was this whole idea that you were going to transfer because you were uncomfortable.